The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great.
Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, good morning. Welcome in Off the Bench, presented by UDF. And, well, we got the full gang together. We are all not just all together on the same show for once as of late, but all in the studio. And not only are we all in the studio, I'm looking across from me, and I feel like, Casey, what we got going on lately? You got you got rid of the glasses, fresh shave, fresh haircut.
Yeah.
You're dappered up today. What you got going on?
Not a whole lot. Just wanted to change up the look and look a little more presentable. I was tired of looking disheveled and whatnot, so I decided that I was gonna clean up a little bit, get rid of the glasses, change the look a little bit, get ready for a new baby. So that's the goal. Been working out a little bit more on my new machine.
We haven't got an update on that.
Yeah, we did. We got an update.
Well, they got an update yesterday.
It was a 7-minute video of him doing bench press.
He got the bar, which is all I asked for when he got the machine. All I said is, you got to get the bar because I want you to compete in next year's bench press at the combine. I want you to get to 225 comfortably by the time we reach next year's NFL combine, and I want to see where you slot in.
I'd rather not. rather not embarrass myself, of course.
You got a year.
I got a year. I
Go
think
to
that
local Gold's Gym, get a little special sauce, and then you'll get up there.
What's more likely to happen? Elliott to win the Masters in 9 years, or me to be able to compete?
Oh, certainly the Masters. Certainly the Masters. I could win that event. No problem.
Okay, well.
I got faith in you, Casey.
You have faith in me? Okay, well, that's good. I'll try my hardest to make sure that you are happy with my success. So.
There we go.
Your workout machine reminds me of like one of those. You know how like the Wii, you got like one of those platforms you could like stand on and it would like rock like you were surfing.
Yeah, the Wii Fitness
and stuff. Yeah, like Wii Fitness. It reminds me of that.
Well, it's not like that, but
it's a lot less fun. That's for sure.
For sure, yeah. There's no game to it. It's just resistant cables, but yeah, I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. I don't know if you saw in that video. Maybe we'll have to show it later.
I did. I saw
off air for the
take a whole
fans
segment
here. But yeah, it would take a whole segment. It was literally like 10 minutes long. Special guest for my cat, Maple.
I'm concerned you only work out when you record it and send it to us.
That's right.
Oh, you think
I'm also worried about that.
You think I'm only like one of those like gym princesses that like set up the phone and in the mirror and do the workout and post on social media and then
you get mad when somebody walks in the frame.
Yeah.
Like your cat walked in the
frame. I did get mad when my cat walked in frame.
Yeah.
So
I think you asked your wife, "Hey, are you recording yet?" about 5 times.
I did. Yeah.
It was sweet.
She wasn't answering. She was just staring at me. But
she was just enamored by the Greek god that is Casey.
She was confused, certainly.
Elliott is so out on this workout apparatus, it's not even funny.
Well, I don't understand it, really. So if somebody could explain, I need to see it in person. Like, you keep sending these videos, and every single time it looks like what a kid plays with. It's just like, it doesn't look like a real workout station.
But it is. It uses resistance.
Yeah, you keep saying that, and it's like how people get like seduced into cults. Like they use workout. It uses resistance, and that's how we work out. It uses the resistance.
This isn't like Star Wars, Rebellion, the Resistance. No, it's not like that. It's like weight that's being.
No, I understand.
Down.
I'm just saying
it doesn't sound like you do.
It seems very strange to me.
Is this easily portable? Is it easily portable?
It is.
Yeah, it folds right up.
Yeah, it folds up, and you can roll it around. You can carry it. Well, you can't carry it in your pocket, but you can carry it. It's like 80 pounds, but I can bring it in. I'll bring it in.
Right
and we can have Elliott do some bench presses for us.
Please, I would love to see it. That's for sure.
Well, yeah, like between each segment, we'll each have to do some kind of bring it in, Case.
Yeah,
bring it in.
I'm gonna bring it in at some point. I don't know if it'll be tomorrow, but I will bring it in for Elliott to try out, and that way he can like he does with many folks, once he meets them and hangs out with them for a little bit, he loves them.
It's true.
So.
This is the content that Trace was on us about. Like,
That's right.
You know, we need more of this content, or maybe it was the opposite.
We need to get Casey's workout machine in here. That's what we need.
Valid.
That's what I need to do.
Without a doubt.
Without a doubt.
Now you said it wasn't a game, but to be fair, you said if you might be winning, you're happy. That's all that matters. So good for you. Good for you. Now he has a new fresh look. We all don't. We all look the exact same. Your hair's longer from when the show started, but we all look the exact same. So maybe we do need this workout machine.
Yeah.
I guess so.
Maybe we need it in our
I guess
lives.
so.
What if we all got super jacked? That'd be pretty cool.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
But no, this is a sports show. I promise we're going to talk sports. Reds lost. The season's done. Back to reality. They suck. Right? Is that how this works? I'm not really sure. They haven't lost in a while.
Well,
so
it was put on Elliott and I that because through 16 games we didn't think this team was burning the world down, and then people equated that to saying the season was over, and they won game 1, and we were the idiots.
Yeah.
Now look where we are.
yeah, losers. They lost last night.
Right back here. So maybe we don't declare the team a playoff team after a game 1 win or the season over after. Let's just digest the whole body of work.
Before I got here, I truly think I enjoyed Red seasons more than I do now. And I don't know what it is, but it does seem like when I'm more in tune to the reaction side of things. And boy, are these reactions to every single night. It is sometimes tiring to see the drastic swing in emotion with the Cincinnati Reds.
Snip, snap.
Snip, snap, snip, snap.
There you go. Speaking of snip, snap, back and forth, Noelvi Marte's back.
Yeah, did he unpack the car? Probably not, right? He's just going to be driving up and down 75.
Yeah, he'll be. Yeah, if the team has a golf cart, he'll drive that around the complex. But other than that, he'll just be riding the bench.
Fair enough, but he's back. He's back for a reason. We'll get to that in a moment. Before we get to the Reds, we'll step away for a few. When we come back, we'll get to Elliot's headlines. We'll dive into the Reds. They come up short last night. We'll talk about that. Some controversy in the game. That's always fun. They'll wrap up the series with the Mariners tonight, and then they hit the road for 9 straight. So that's a nice little road trip that they have coming up. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about a player that just got put on the IL, and then we have some big news and headlines. So we'll get to that when we come back. More Off the Bench next. All right, and we are back. The draft is a week from today.
That's right.
Do you feel – I feel like usually at this point there is draft fatigue. I don't feel like draft has been pushed, not just on this show, but I don't feel like the draft has been overly pushed. Am I wrong in saying that? Like, I don't feel like the draft is – I don't feel like it's a week away.
It seems like it's the least hyped draft maybe in my lifetime.
For sure.
I mean, I know the quarterback class isn't great, but it feels like even like the star wide receiver. And again, I'm a big offensive player guy.
Absolutely. I think most fans are.
Yeah.
That's where this comes from.
And it just feels like outside of Ashton Jeanty, who are the stars that I'm curious to see where they go. Not many of them. Not many of them in this draft class. And that's no knock on them. I think we were talking about this yesterday, and Jacob's like, it's going to be a deal. Like, there's going to be a lot of good players that come out of this.
For sure.
You're just not probably going to get excited over them right now before the draft. But it is strange to me because it's almost like nobody has cared about this draft at all.
Yeah, I think something that's – I mean, obviously you're right. I mean, you can see it with how much news is going on around the draft, the fact that we've talked about how little it's been brought up. And, I mean, even Casey and I are big draft guys. I think we would certainly agree. From the masses, it's been one of the quieter off-seasons draft-wise, and it is because of the lack of offensive star power. But the reason I kind of find that funny, and Casey, you can tell me if I'm off base here, I think this is one of the best tight end classes we've ever seen in terms of Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, and then Harold Fannin in the later rounds. I think it's one of the better O-line classes we've seen in a long time in terms of the depth at the interior. I know that's not a flashy position, so maybe it doesn't count for necessarily what we're talking about here. We know about Gene T. Marion Hampton is a phenomenal college running back. If you go to wide receivers, Teteroa McMillan's a 21-year-old who averaged 110 yards a game back-to-back seasons. Like, I'm not entirely sure why, I guess. Is it just quarterbacks that's driving the lack of interest? I don't know, but I feel like the rest of those fun positions are very deep. And one of the new ones that I feel like a lot of people latch onto in the NFL is the edge rusher, is that big-time sack guy, and that's a great position in this draft class. Abdul Carter's a generational talent. So, yeah, I mean, it certainly has been quieter, but I think people are going to be very, very excited looking back on this class at how great it really was, just maybe not at those marquee spots.
Yeah, I do think maybe it's because, like, you already know where most of them are going to fall. Like, the Travis Hunters of the world that are – this all-time great athlete, he's going top 3. Like, where, like, Cam Ward's going to go. And then that the rest of the quarterback draft is just not very good. Now, maybe it shocks us when we come to draft day, but I think a lot of the draft conversation, a lot of people have already, like, got it figured out in their minds where people should be slotted.
Yeah.
And a lot of the discourse over previous years is just like, no, I think this guy's higher than what you're evaluating. I don't think there's a lot of that this year. A lot of people have just said, like, yeah, I agree with you. I think Shedeur Sanders is a second-round pick, but he's going to go first. Like, stuff, that conversation.
Right.
And like you said, great depth in running back, tight end, like a lot of offensive weapons. So it is a little confusing to see that, but a lot of the conversations are everyone's agreeing that these guys are, slotted to be first-round picks, should be first-round picks, and that's the difference I think this year is that we don't have a lot of differing opinions on where guys should be slotted at this year. So.
Yeah, we'll get more into the draft coming up in a bit. I'll talk about the Bengals and their approach to the draft again, night 1 of the draft a week from tonight. And we'll talk about the Bengals. Like, how do the Bengals will win the draft if the Bengals will lose the draft if. We'll get to that coming up around the corner. Obviously, some of the bigger storylines surrounding this, but you're right. A lot of star names. There's a lot of not household names, but I guess names that are going to be instant recognizable players that a lot of people are going to be tuning into by week 1 of the NFL season, and it'll be interesting a week from now. I think once these players are drafted and we see where these players end up, I think there'll be a little bit more excitement as far as that goes.
I also think this is something over the next few years that the 12-team plaoff will greatly help in terms
more
of,
names,
you're watching more teams that maybe you don't watch throughout the regular season. You get them in the playoff. Even if you watch one game and they lose by 30, you'll recognize their star player. And I think more people will probably get into the first round of the draft and have more excitement over, where their NFL team is leaning there with the expanded playoff. I've been against it in, most facets of the expanded playoff, but I think this is something that could certainly help.
Yeah, I mean, the name that keeps getting mentioned, Will Howard. We talk Will Howard because we're Ohio State fans, even Elliott now. But no, Will Howard would not be mentioned in the draft, I don't feel like hardly at all, but the only reason he's being pushed is because, yes, they won a national championship, but because he had so many big games. You look at the Tennessee game, you look at Oregon, you look at Texas, and then you look at the national championship game. Those playoff opportunities obviously put more players like that in position to put some good film out there, but nonetheless. All right, let's kick it over to Elliott for Elliott's headlines.
Oop. Oh.
That's electric, though.
That was way better.
Score updates, breaking news, local and
That is
national
better without the
headlines.
voice.
Whatever's
Insert
going
the
on in the
intro.
world of sports, Elliott has you covered. Off the Bench brings you Elliott's headlines.
The best parts of this song we never hear, apparently.
Yeah, I know.
Every time it's not restarted, it's 10 times better.
It's like somewhere in the middle, way in the beginning. It's every single time it's better without the voice. But here we go. Headlines: Mariners, they beat the Reds 5-3 last night. Nick Martinez struggled yet again. He is 0-3 on the season. He has a 6 ERA, 7 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 runs total, 3 walks he allowed as well. Not a great day for old Nick Martinez. Every starter for the Reds in the lineup got a hit, except for Jake Fraley, unfortunately. CES brought home 2 runs last night. Obviously, some news there, as now he is on the 10-day IL, as we mentioned. Noelvi Marte brought back up, as we've already mentioned. But nonetheless, it is of concern that CES gets sent back to the IL. We were wondering when this would happen. He's been dealing with a back injury, so It was only a matter of time. Today, 12:40, it's going to be Brady Singer versus Emerson Hancock. Emerson Hancock. Sounds like a writer from like 1824. Emerson Hancock. Singer hasn't lost a start yet this season, 3-0. Hancock has an 81 ERA.
Kobe.
He has an 81 ERA with a 12 whip. For reference, I think Tony Santillan has a 0.49 whip. He has a 12 whip. It was supposed to be Brian Wu, I believe. It is now Emerson Hancock. So the Reds thrown a little bit of a bone here for the series finale at 12:40. Right here on ESPN 1410, Wing AM. Continuing on, the Dodgers, they scored 7 in the first inning. They won 8-7 over the Rockies. They're able to hold on to that lead. The White Sox, they lose yet again to the Athletics, 3-1 the final score in that game. The Red Sox, they shut out the Rays 1-0. We know how that feels. It's not fun. The Pirates, they crushed the Nationals 6-1. The Cubs, they lost to the Padres 4-2. The Twins, they hold off the Mets in 10 innings, but a scary moment in that game when umpire Hunter Wendelstedt took a line drive to the head while working first base. I don't know if you saw that play, but it was very, very scary. He was down for a while, so hopefully everything's okay. The Blue Jays, they get another win over the Braves, 3-1, the final score there. The Braves have one more win over the Chicago White Sox to start this young season. Yikes. NBA news, the Mavericks, they keep it going. They get a win over the Kings, 120-106. The final score, Anthony Davis, 27 points, 9 rebounds. I'm going to cheer against them harder than I've cheered against anybody maybe in my entire life. They deserve nothing.
There's almost no way they win tonight, I think.
Well, I'll tell you what. If they do win tonight, and Friday, if they win on tomorrow night, and if they win like a playoff series, I'm going to be upset. I'm going to be very, very upset. It would be all-time funny if that team won a championship.
Oh, it would be awesome.
Like, it won't happen.
And I want to root against them, too. I understand like what you're doing for Nico, but haven't the Mavericks fans been through enough?
So you're just saying
Nico's going to get fired, but his life is over.
Do you think they celebrate? Do you think they celebrate?
I think they would celebrate a championship.
Or do you think how funny? You know what it's going to be? It's going to be what you said about Ryan Day when they hoist up the finals
Nico
trophy.
gets the statue.
They're just going to boo when they win the championship.
I mean, you protested outside Great American Ballpark before one of the seasons here in Cincinnati, and obviously that season didn't go well. You were in the right, but imagine if the Reds had won the championship, you would have celebrated.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think I would have.
Right.
Yeah,
see, so it's the same vein. I did see the question posed yesterday. Is Anthony Davis the best unanimous second best player in a trade ever?
Yes.
I think so too.
I think he might be.
He's a Hall of Famer.
Moving over to the other game last night, the Heat. They win by 19 over the Bulls. I'm shocked the Bulls lost. They're 10 games under 500. The Heat won by 19 over the Bulls. Tyler Hero dropped 38 points. Tomorrow night, it's the Mavericks taking on the Grizzlies. The Heat will take on the Hawks. So there we go. Play-in still happening. Heading over to college football. There is a new college football rule.
There is.
A rule change to combat faking injuries. The LeBron rule.
Lane Kiffin rule.
If medical personnel are forced to enter the field of play to evaluate an injured player, after the ball is spotted by the officiating crew, the player's team will be charged a timeout. If that team doesn't have any timeouts remaining, a 5-yard delay of game penalty will be assessed. I think that's fair.
I like it.
I think that's fair.
A lot of the pushback to this or any legislation around faking injuries, the argument has been, well, what happens when someone is hurt? Or how are you giving officials the ability to determine what's real and what's fake? I don't care.
Yeah.
You've lost that benefit of the doubt over the last 3, 4, 5 seasons. Right, exactly. How many clips have we seen clear as day faking injuries? I think this does a very, very good job of giving them plenty of time until the official spots the ball to go down if you're actually hurt. You don't need 10, 20 seconds to figure out if you're hurt.
Yeah.
Either get off the field or go down. I have no problem with this rule. I saw there was some pushback, but it seems like most college football fans are happy.
Yeah, I would agree. And finally, in college football, after 38 years, I'll credit Nate, even though I had this written down before Nate said
Mike
it in
Ackley
chat.
beat Nate in the chat.
Mike Ackley did too. Credit to Mike Ackley then. After 38 years, Lee Corso will make his final college game day headgear pick. August 30th will be the final time Lee Corso is on game day. So he's been a staple of that show. He's been a staple of ESPN for God knows how many years.
Yeah.
I guess 38.
38,
in front of me.
years.
Yeah, I didn't realize that when I started that sentence. But good for him. It's been a long career. I know the last few years of analysis from Lee Corso probably haven't been there, but he's still a staple, and we're going to miss him.
Yeah, unbelievable. One of the best. Going back to Indiana last year, the whole Lee Corso broadcast, essentially, for that game was unbelievable. Credit to, a legend for all he's done for college football for that show. I mean, I can't think of the College Football Saturday without College Game Day without Lee Corso. So, absolutely, it does make my heart happy that his first pick was Ohio State. His most often pick was Ohio State, and on August 30th, he's going to pick Ohio State again against Texas on week 1 and go out, the same way he came in, picking headgear, and that's just a beautiful thing. So I love Lee Corso, love everything about College Game Day and what he's done for my favorite sport in the entire world, and it's not going to be the same without him. But as you said, certainly his time has come, and we appreciate the good years, and certainly we'll be watching highlights of College Game Day for a long, long time.
Oh, yeah.
Texas, Ohio State, week 1. Assuming that, game day, that there's no other.
Yeah, I'm going out on a limb here and saying they're going to be at Ohio State for Texas.
You're talking about the reigning national champions?
Against Arch Manning.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
It would just have to be. But yeah, the final,
Big noon.
Are you surprised that they're not going the full season with him? That they're just announcing week 1, Texas, Ohio State? It makes sense. It's a humongous matchup, assuming that that's what this is. I can't imagine it being anything else, as we talked about. Are you surprised it's not a full season? Obviously, the concerns about his health. There have been times, and this is not being disrespectful. I think there's been times where I'm like, I don't think he should be up there
He's
at
missed
all.
trips with health concerns.
Yeah, he missed long periods of time, and there really wasn't any. Not that they needed, to give us exact details, but I think we could all fill in the blanks for why he was missing. I am glad that he gets at least a farewell one. I think it would be hard for him to commit to a full season. But,
Absolutely.
I think it's smart to give him this one game. Hopefully he's healthy enough to do that one game. That would be.
I would have loved a farewell season. I think
Yeah.
that would have been great if each of the universities that they went to throughout the season could have had the opportunity to give him something or pay their respects to obviously all that he's done for the show and for college football, and that would have been really, really cool. We saw it with when Dwayne Wade went on his retirement tour, getting the gifts from all the teams. Coach K, very similar at the end of Duke. Lee Corso would have had an amazing reception for whatever it is, 15, 16 weeks throughout college football if he went on a year-long retirement tour, but obviously can't put anything on his plate that he isn't healthy and able to do. I love that he's going to get a great send-off on week 1, and it does, I don't want to make any assumptions or certainly overstep my bounds, but it does raise a little bit of concern if they're not willing to give him a whole season. If they don't feel like he's ready to go through the whole season, I would be lying if that's not one of the first things I thought when they said one more week for Lee Corso. So hopefully everything is all right. Hopefully we'll see him out and about, not on the game day stage for many, many years to come.
He's 89 years old.
Right.
Is he that old? I never.
Yeah.
When you
He's
cover
80
a sport for 38 years old, 38 years, I was curious what his exact age was. I know he was old.
The animated movie Snow White came out 2 years after he was born.
Thank you for the timeline.
Let's put it in perspective.
Franklin D. Roosevelt was the president of the United States
Look
when
at you.
Lee Corso was born.
You know who we haven't heard from in a while?
Who?
James Madison.
Hey, everybody, I'm James.
It really has been months.
It's James Madison.
I think it's safe to say that's the first one this year.
It might be.
It might be.
It might be.
I really do. He's been a character for college football. It's kind of like Dick Vitale for college basketball.
For sure.
And
Very
Dick
similar.
Vitale's been battling health issues for years. He was able to come back and actually call a game or two, if I'm not mistaken, down the stretch of the college basketball season. But Dick Vitale to college basketball is what Lee Corso has been to college football. I also saw, too, that Reese Davis was close to being poached by Fox. Fox did everything that they could to pull Reese Davis away from College Game Day to go help lead theirs over there. But College Game Day is the best thing. I think you do have to credit Pat McAfee for the resurgence of it. I know some people are kind of in the middle on Pat. I'm not. I'm the biggest Pat McAfee fan out there. But, you move on from one character in Lee Corso, and I think that the character replacing him is Pat McAfee at the end of the day.
Yeah, the Emmy-nominated 7-time national champion's done a pretty good job, too.
Yeah.
He's good at everything. First year on the game day desk, he gets an Emmy nom.
Yeah.
Wait, how many people do you think have 7 national championships and an Emmy? He's able to win that one.
Not many.
Yeah, he's
Not many.
the best, man.
You know him.
No, I wish. Well, I know him. He doesn't
shared
know
a
me.
field with him.
He doesn't know me. Yeah.
I think he knows you pretty well.
You did work for him.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah, technically.
Would you have worked for the current By the way, did you see the clip of?
I've heard that this regime is, they might not win as many games, but it's way more fun.
Really?
So, yeah, way more relaxed. I mean, coach is wearing a hoodie and t-shirt on the sideline, Coach DeBoer, so definitely different than Coach
Speaking of
Saban's.
coaches wearing hoodies, Bill Belichick.
Yes.
His slightly
One of
younger
their coaches is
girlfriend,
wearing a dress.
his slightly younger girlfriend apparently has a title, and I don't have the story pulled up, but she has like a title that she's referring to herself as. But if you go look it up, she's not technically on the coaching staff, but she's at every practice. And at one point there's some clips of her actually, kind of taking control and directing traffic at practice and stuff. What do you make of Bill Belichick with the ultimate flex? He's 40 years older than his girlfriend, and she's helping run in some practices. Didn't Ed O get run out of LSU where he won a national championship for bringing his girlfriends to practice? Wasn't that frowned upon? Maybe it's just because it's singular. Bill Belichick, all about his.
It was also found out that she sent in some emails to the staff and media personnel on the UNC team that they are not allowed to picture Steve Belichick and Bill Belichick together to avoid any what's it called when your father's in the business? Called it about Bronny all the time. Nepotism. To avoid any nepotism claims, no pictures of Steve with Bill. They're also not allowed to mention in any writings or UNC literature that Steve Belichick was hired by his father. The UNC North Carolina Tar Heel football team hired ex-Washington defensive coordinator, ex-college defensive coordinator Steve Belichick. His dad had nothing to do with that. So all instructions by their director of media, I believe, his girlfriend.
Wow.
So that's fun.
Bill Belichick, by the way, how old is this guy? He's 73. She's 24. Just to clear that up for everybody. Also, she will be competing, if anybody's interested, in the Miss Maine USA title.
Oh wow!
She'll be competing for Miss Maine. So in the great state of Maine, you will have Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend.
Does she go from Miss Maine to Mrs. Belichick here in the near future?
Nice.
Who knows?
She's very committed. For anyone that just says she's just there for the money, she's
in it for the love.
She's
in it for the love.
How many gold diggers out there truly would help run practice for this guy? She would just be at home spending his money.
I guess.
Is that the
she
first
has
time?
her independent national championship?
Yeah. Does spending NIL money count? Because maybe she's doing that.
Is that the first time gold digger has been mentioned on this show too?
Maybe.
Oh, 100%. Nobody's ever said that word here.
There we go. There we go. All right, let's talk Reds. That makes everyone happy. I think so. I think we're okay with the Reds right now. Or, if this was a Facebook relationship, would it be? It's complicated.
I'm as okay as I've ever been with the Reds. I'm very, very comfortable with where I'm at mentally with this Red Legs team, and it feels good. The last couple of years have been a roller coaster of pain and just always ending in sadness. And I feel like this year I've reached a good spot mentally to be able to kind of stay level.
I'm staying level.
Well, let's remain level as we focus on the Reds, not Bill Belichick's girlfriend that's like 50 years younger than him. I keep increasing that number, but we'll step away for a few when we come back. The Reds lose last night, but they have a chance to take the series. If they win the series, they win the game today, they win their third straight series, and we'll put last night's loss away. You were at the game, Elliot?
I was.
Is that back-to-back games?
I showed up very late in the game. I was on a friend of ours, Ricky. He was in the chat. Ricky asked me to come on this podcast, so that'll come out, I think, today. I think we did that at 6, and at like 7 o'clock, I drove down and got there in like the 5th inning, but it was good.
Do tickets just become significantly cheaper if you get there in the middle of the game, or how's
Well,
that
I think
work?
the ticket was given to me beforehand,
Okay.
so
Fair enough.
I don't know about that.
Fair enough. All right, we'll step away for a few minutes. We'll talk about the Reds. Noelvi Marte called back up. Christian Encarnacion-Strand to the IL. We'll talk about the significance of that. Nick Martinez. Are we concerned about Nick Martinez? We'll get to that coming up around the corner. NFL draft, Cincinnati Bengals talk shortly as well. So we'll get to all of that. More off the bench when we return. All right, and we are back. This is Off the Bench, presented by UDF. Justin Kinner, Casey McAllister, Elliot Rearing, and Jacob Tissett with you here. Let's see, I wasn't here yesterday because yesterday we would have talked about the Reds' big win over, obviously, Luis Castillo and the Mariners in Game 1. Last night, we saw Nick Martinez kind of get jumped on early. Kind of dug themselves a hole and really, had some chances. Like the Reds put up 3 runs. They had 10 hits on the night. They're swinging the bat. They're getting guys on base. Yep. They left a lot of runners stranded. Obviously, a controversial call. Elliot, I'll go to you on that one. It's one of those where you could hate the rule, but not the call, right? Why are so many people mad at the call? I think the rule is what's annoying, but I think it was the right call. I mean, he did technically step in front of the catcher to kind of impact the throw. Were you? Looks like on social media you were pretty upset and angry at the call.
Well, to be fair, we were at the ballpark. They didn't show the replay, and we had no way of knowing what was going on until we saw it later. I didn't understand the rule that even if a clear unintentional swing, where he's swinging like he would be swinging at any baseball, and he just happens to fall a little bit into the catcher's way, I didn't fully and really not even over the plate. I think his toe was grazing the plate. I didn't understand how that warranted interference. And then I also certainly didn't understand how Elly De La Cruz was out at second base. I didn't understand any of it at the time. Obviously, it all got explained to me afterwards, and now I kind of get it. It still doesn't change the fact that I don't know how many times in that moment that call is made. It's a rule, so the umpire is protected by that rule. He's followed the letter of the law. If the batter is in the way of a throw, it's going to be called for interference. But I just don't understand in that moment how that warranted it. I've watched that replay 400 times. Would it have been a closer play if he didn't accidentally fall into that throwing range there? Yeah, it probably would have been. But he was. I mean, Elly was going to be safe by a mile, and I don't understand why the runner gets punished because of something like that. That seems like a really, really dumb rule. If it's interference, that's one thing, and that's fine. If you want to call interference in that play, that's fine. But to have the rule be where if the batter is out on strikes on an interference call, then somebody has to be out, so the runner's automatically
So would
out.
you send Elly back to first?
Yeah,
in
correct.
In your sense?
Correct.
Okay.
Elly-
You can't just give him second.
Correct. In my eyes, he would go back to first,
Okay.
and it would be a wash at the plate. Obviously, it's not the case. The rule is written, so I can't really sit here and complain about it all day long. They didn't lose that game because of that interference call, but it was just one of those. It was just one of those things that stacked up on top of everything, and clearly it made its presence felt. We were in a section kind of right behind the Reds dugout, and it was very funny after because it was just literally every call that he made that was against the Reds in any way, whether it was a strike or a ball, just the crowd rained boos all over the field. And we started doing the pitch clock thing, which was very funny. For a small crowd, I know Nick Kirby said this yesterday on Chatterbox Reds, but for a small crowd, I felt like we made our voices felt. Because it was just frustration that was just pent up. It was built up, and we got it all out. But as for the call, no. I mean, is it a bad call in the moment? I believe it is, but I can't complain about it when it's technically the letter of the law.
Yeah, I was watching the game. I was shocked when I opened Twitter and saw people were upset. That looked like one of the easiest letter of the law batter interference calls. I mean, there was no argument there. He fell out of the box. He was in front of the plate, and catcher couldn't make the throw to second. I was floored that there was a big pushback to that when I opened Twitter after I saw the play. It looked very simple to me. Yeah, is it frustrating? For sure. But, yeah, there's no argument that I could see at how that wasn't catcher's interference by the rule. You can argue that the rule's bad. We do that in every sport, but that was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I agree with you. The Elly De La Cruz thing, send him back to first. That, like, calling him out, like, you're punishing.
It just doesn't.
It's a 2-for-1 punishment, it seems. And Elly was trying to get that bag no matter what. But yeah, I would have sent him back to first. I think that's kind of strange.
Do they call it out on a stunt? Like, what was the out for Elly? Like, how do they?
He can't make the throw to second, so he's out.
No, but I'm saying, like, how do they label it? Like, what is it? Is caught stealing?
Yeah.
What's I don't know how the out was labeled, but it seems strange to me that's the play or that's the rule. But again, I that's not the reason the Cincinnati Reds lost that game. They lost because of stupid base running mistakes that have not been fixed in over a year, mental errors that continue to riddle this team and bringing them down to earth. There was a chance the Reds were going to come back and win that game.
They gave it to him. He was picked off.
It's called a pickoff. See, that seems bad to me.
Because you credit the catcher.
Because that seems, I mean, the catcher wasn't going to make that play. I guess we'll never know. And you could say Elly wasn't going to make the play either, but it's a hypothetical thing. To make an out on that seems strange, but whatever, it's the rule. The base running mistakes are going to have to stop eventually. I mean, Elly, I love the guy, but we're going to have to be better. And all around, the team still has those, like, 8th grade mistakes. Like, you're playing 8th grade youth baseball. And it's that kind of play sometimes with this team. And I don't know if there's a fix to it. Certainly the change in manager hasn't fixed anything when it comes to that. Maybe they'll figure it out on their own as the season goes on. But it is frustrating at times to watch a team that's so immature when it comes to the little things.
I feel like these are things you should pick up on coming up through the system. I know people, and I should have really thought of it from this perspective last year when everyone was jumping on David Bell, and I know people want to jump on Francona. And to be fair, I'd be a hypocrite if going away from it I said, well, Francona's the kind of manager that comes in and fixes that stuff. But at the end of the day, like, some of these errors, by the time you're called up to the Reds roster, you're a Major League Baseball player. I feel like, I mean, yes, you're still learning stuff as you're called up, but like some of these things should have really just been ironed out throughout the system, throughout the Reds system. I feel like these are things that need to be criticized about the Reds farm system in regards to a lot of the younger players for the Reds that have come up through the system that I'm like, why hasn't this been a point of emphasis for them coming up? Why are we talking about Major League Baseball players having to learn to run the bases? That just seems like a weird ask at this point. I will say it seemed like last night was egregious with how many base running mistakes we witnessed. But they had 10 hits. They had a lot of runners on base, and I think that they were a lot. They had so many opportunities to make noise, and I think they were trying to kind of wreak havoc a little bit too. Then you wonder the people that criticize the Reds because they weren't as aggressive as last year. We weren't seeing as many steal attempts. We weren't seeing as many steals at all. Then it's like they kind of are super aggressive last night, and now we're upset about that. Obviously, it's not that we're upset that they're aggressive. It's that they're sloppy and that they're making mistakes. And you lose 5-3. You have 10 hits. 10 hits is a lot of hits. You should be able to put yourself in a position to win that game. They obviously didn't. Still played okay. I think Nick Martinez is outing, which we'll get to coming up here in a moment. They're playing catch up a little bit. We've seen that this team's really good playing with the lead this year, and it helps when you have good starting pitching and your bullpen's very reliable. But we'll see if this becomes a pattern moving forward. But that was bad yesterday. The errors in the fielding and the base running mistakes were bad, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know when that's going to get cleaned up because I've been waiting for somebody to change the way that we do things a little bit. And it's what Jacob and I have been saying for 2 years. Terry Francona can't come in here and just make everything better just because he's Terry Francona and he won a couple of World Series. I love Terry Francona, but he can't fix the errors out there just the same way David Bell couldn't. They're young, they're going to get better, they're going to improve. But as of right now, as we continue to watch them grow and develop, they're gonna make these mistakes, and I don't know if there's an easy fix for it. Elly's error was costly. Elly's base running error at second base, getting picked off at second is the worst way to get an out. I think that I understand that he was aggressive, he was out there, but you have to have some semblance of awareness when you're at second base to not get picked off in that situation. There's just no world where it can be allowed to happen. You have enough time, you have ample time to figure out what that pitcher's doing. And if you're going to get picked off there, I mean, there's just no excuse for it. As for the rest of the game, the offense looked fine, I would say. I wouldn't say they looked great, but I thought they gave me enough yesterday to feel confident moving forward that, it wasn't bad. CES delivered a clutch double, a 2 RBI double to help the Reds get going there. Like I said earlier in the headlines, every Red that started outside of Jake Fraley got a hit. TJ had 2 hits. I think they looked fine. I mean, obviously, there was a lot of strikeouts last night. At-bats weren't great. 12 strikeouts for the Reds. 12 out of 27 outs were strikeouts. But, yeah, I mean, it's going forward. We'll see how much this team can develop. given the fact that there's still a lot of players that aren't fully healthy and fully capable to make great plays. Spencer Steer did get a hit yesterday, but man, Spencer Steer doesn't look like a professional baseball player. He doesn't look like he should be out there. I have a quote from Charlie Goldsmith here. Steer is getting close to being ready to play first. Quote, "It won't be very long." I don't think he should be on the team. I mean, he has 6 hits this season, and each hit outside of that home run in Milwaukee, it looks weaker than the next. So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and judge a base hit based on how hard it's hit. I think anytime you can get on first, that's great. But when he's hitting 100.
Yeah, Bryce Spalding tweeted it this morning. He had 2 doubles on April 8th in San Francisco. Outside of that game, he's slashing 0.86 batting average, 160 on base percentage, and then 152. He has 4 hits and 46 at-bats again outside of that game, and he can't play the field. And he can't DH every day. Not that you'd want that DHing every day, but he can't play the field and he can't be in the lineup every day. And when he is in the lineup, he's one of the worst bats we have.
Yeah. I don't know.
Might as well have your pitchers.
I truly don't, and I think Trace tweeted it yesterday. Somebody made that decision to have Steer be up here, and they're riding with it, and they're not going to be wrong about it. They're gonna make sure that Spencer Steer is a part of the Reds. Let it go. Let it go. Spencer Steer is not a Major League Baseball player right now. Let him rest. Let him heal. Maybe the worry right now is that what are we healing from? Because it seems like we still never really found out what that injury is specifically and how long it's going to take to heal.
Can surgery fix this? And if surgery could fix it, just have the damn surgery so that you don't. I don't want him to play or whatever you want to call this into July and then decide, all right, we're just going to go ahead and have the surgery. And now you're out for the start of next season. Like, why not just call this season a wash if you have to? Because this isn't it. This isn't it. What if surgery possible for, like, what the hell is this injury? This weird injury that you could still play with.
And I understand, like, a player coming out and defending his job, and it's probably Spencer Steer being like, I'm good to go. Let me play. I've watched you play, and it's not good. It's not good. I love Spencer Steer. I'm one of the bigger Spencer Steer homers in this city. But right now, you can't seriously tell me that guy can compete at a major league level. He's just not. He's just not there. I don't think he can compete at a minor league level. I don't think there's a pitcher in single A that wouldn't be successful against Spencer Steer at this very moment. He just doesn't have it. And if you go down the lineup, another quote from Charlie here, CES, though he had a hit yesterday, still hasn't looked great this season. They've been talking with CES about the back injury all week. It wasn't getting better. He'll get an epidural to calm it down. So that's what's going on there. But outside of those two, there has been a little bit of improvement. Getting Austin Hayes here was massive. Gavin Lux has been playing better ball. Matt McClain, I'm confident that Matt McClain's going to be great. And Elly De La Cruz, the big 4, as we mentioned yesterday. If those 4 can contribute at a high level, I'm going to be okay with the lineup. It's still not good, but I'm going to be okay with it moving forward. You just know there's several guys right now that are black holes. They can't be. Jake Fraley cannot be trusted to make contact with a baseball. Spencer Steer cannot be trusted to make contact. Jeimer Candelario is 1 for his last 70, it feels like. Cannot be trusted to make contact with a baseball. So that's the tough part of this lineup, where so many key contributors are useless at the moment. But for what it was worth last night, I thought they fought, and I know it's there's no moral victories, but I did feel like I felt better walking away last night knowing that they could have won that game had it not been for simple mistakes. When did the simple mistakes get better? God knows when. But as of right now, I'm okay. I'm at ease with that loss. I didn't walk away upset. I didn't walk away as upset as I thought I'd be.
All right, fair enough. We'll step away for a few moments. We talked about some of those basically automatic outs that are in this lineup, but there is an underrated player right now that I don't think is getting the love that maybe he should be. We'll talk about that, and let's talk about Nick Martinez. We talked about him a couple days ago. As far as being concerned, and I was like, well, maybe we're a little premature on that. Now there's another game where I'm like, yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on. And the biggest number that's a problem is what he's being paid. That's always going to be what's working against Nick Martinez at this point, unless he's pitching lights out, which he has not been as of late. Are we concerned about Nick Martinez, and how big of a problem can this grow to be? We'll talk about that when we come back. More Reds talk when we return. This is Off the Bench. You didn't say one. You got to say one. I'm not going to. You say one.
I never
Who just
say
says
one.
Well, the
Three,
one would
two-
be on air.
Well, 3, 2, 1. It's
I-
like rock, paper,
I don't
scissors.
think
Rock,
I've
paper,
ever
scissors,
said
shoot.
one.
He's never said one.
I've never said one. I always go 3, 2.
I'm new.
And
Has he
point.
never said
I
one?
don't think he's ever said one.
I don't think he's ever said one. I'm
don't-
almost 100% positive he's never said one.
I don't even know what that word means. I just 3, 2. I don't know what comes
What's
after.
next?
Yeah, what comes next?
Oh, well. All right. Well, 3, 2, 1, and we are back off the bench, presented by UDF. Talking Reds. We'll talk about a player here in a second that I think is not getting as much love or any love at this point, and we'll discuss him in a moment, Nick Martinez. But the lineup is out for today. Again, the Reds have a 12:40 first pitch as they look to wrap up this series with the Mariners. Looking to get a big win today, because if they do that, that would be 3 straight series wins, and that would be huge as far as taking momentum on the road, because they have 9 straight games coming up on the road before they return to Great American Ballpark at the end of the month. But Elliot, you have the lineup, and there seems to be some concern about not the names that are in the lineup, but there's a key name that the Reds just got back that is not in the lineup for this afternoon.
That would be correct. Matt McClain not playing today for the rubber match. 12:40 again, GABP. TJ Friedel's leading it off. He's in center. Espinal hitting in that 2 spot. Third base, playing third base today. De La Cruz, obviously Elly. A lot more people just say, good job, Cruz, at the game than I would have liked to see. They just say Cruz.
Is
And
it,
it's like, who are you talking about?
Was last night Facebook night?
Yeah, I guess it was. There was a lot of Facebook fans there last night.
There's,
DH,
now, just a slight detour. There's no one I love more than the Reds Facebook fans.
the Reds Facebook fans are a different
It's always
breed.
a fun read.
DH batting fourth, Austin Hayes. Gavin Lux at second base this afternoon. First base, Jamir Candelario. The 7-8-9 would be Blake Dunn, Jake Fraley, and Austin Wins, our left field, right fielder, and our catcher. Down the lineup, obviously Brady Singer, as I mentioned, 3-0 on this season, has been pretty good. Obviously, he had that great first start. Since then, it hasn't been as good. He hasn't been as good, but he's still looked sharp. He's still looked fresh. So good for him. I'm excited to see the game today. They have to get this the fight that we had last year on rubber matches and on day games. I'm hoping to ease that this year, and hopefully we don't have to sweat so many of these out. But this is a big game. This is a massive game for not only the momentum of this team right now, but for the longevity of the season. Because if you can't win rubber matches, I just don't know how long I'm going to be able to take it. Last year, it felt like they struggled mightily when it came to that game 3. They'd win game 1, they'd lose game 2, and then it got to that day game rubber match, and it just felt like they were always short. It always felt like the offense wasn't ready to go or the pitching wasn't ready to go. I'm hoping that's going to change this season, because this is the first, I want to say, real test this season when it comes to having a pressure situation and coming through. I'm hoping the Reds are able to do that. But nonetheless, that's your lineup. First pitch again, 12:40 at GABP against the Mariners.
Thank God they won game 1, so we have a chance today.
You do have a chance
That's
today.
the biggest thing.
You do have a
I mean,
chance
you just,
today.
You just keep fighting, and it feels good. Yeah, I mean, the Reds score the most runs they ever score, and the offense looks decent right now, and Brady Singer's on the bump. So they're probably going to score 15,
Yeah.
what they usually score for him. So that would certainly work for me.
Yeah, and I do like that Singer is up as well. I mean, look, they have depth in this rotation, and I do like it that, we're kind of nearing the bottom of the rotation, and you have Brady Singer up, and we feel confident that the Reds can go out there and actually close this one out as far as that goes. And speaking of that rotation, let's just start with this one right here. Nick Martinez, another questionable out. It was a bad outing. It was not a good outing last night. Obviously, just goes a little over 4 innings, gives up quite a few runs, gets hit quite a lot, and it goes right to what we were talking about on Monday, where you don't want to overreact to all the good, like for instance, Nick Lodolo. Like, we're seeing some great outings from him, but it's like, well, we need to see those great outings kind of go into May and June before we really start to buy into it. We need to see a lot more, but we're starting to see consistently now some rough outings from Nick Martinez, where he gives you 1 or 2, 3 really good innings and then gets shelled. But he was hit early and often last night. Are we starting to get growing concerns for Nick Martinez at this point? It's only April. I know we overreact to the good outings, we overreact to bad outings, but this one seems, if there was ever a situation to overreact to, I don't even think it's overreacting. I think it's proper reacting. I think Nick Martinez has shown to be the vulnerable link in this rotation at this point, which is concerning because of the money that the Reds spent on him. That also goes along with the expectations that we had for him coming into the season as a starter.
I think yesterday's a little bit different in terms of the level of concern with Nick Martinez, and I think it's higher. Wasn't statistically one of his worst starts of the year, kind of slots towards the middle, but the fact that he gave up runs in the first 2 innings he was in the game, that raises a lot of concern for me, because even when he had these bad outings to start the year, it was usually at the back end, where he would, fall apart and allow most of the runs. And that's why we held on to, especially in this room, and I think in most of Reds fan base, hey, he's going to move to the bullpen and he's going to be fine because he still has those 3-4 dominant innings in these starts. That's not the case yesterday, and that was really scary. They put a graphic up that had been the story for the first, 3 starts of his year. He was around the 150s this first time through the lineup, up near 440 his third time through the lineup. So he's unpitchable 3 times through the lineup, so I don't know how you can call him a starting pitcher. If you want to use him as an opener, that's fine. If you want to use him after an opener, that's fine. I don't think Nick Martinez should start another game for the Reds, but I don't know that they're necessarily comfortable moving off of him with $20 million price tag, so we'll see what happens, but I think we've had our answer through this many starts about whether or not he's a starter, right?
Yeah. Here's the thing. A good team, any good organization, they look at what Nick Martinez brought to the table last season, and they pay him $21 million. That's what a good organization does. They pay good players good money to stay on your team. Nick Martinez was a hybrid pitcher last year. When we needed him to start, he was a starter. But to be clear, he's a middle reliever. That's what he is. That's who he is. He's not a starting pitcher. He is not a full-time starting pitcher. The $21 million, I understand why people are upset. The Reds did not do enough to help this offense in the offseason because most of our budget was tied up with Nick Martinez. I understand that. Saying that, a pitcher in today's market, they get a lot of money. It's what we say about the Hunter Green contract. Those deals don't exist anymore. The fact that we got that Hunter Green deal, honestly, is a joke because it's such a good deal. Nick Martinez was going to get paid a lot of money no matter who got him. The Reds decided, you know what? He had a lot of success here. He's a versatile pitcher. We're gonna retain him. We're gonna keep him here, and we're gonna see what he can do. The starting pitching experiments failed. He's been this for 4 starts this season. He's been the same exact pitcher. 6 innings, 4 runs. 4 2/3, 3 runs. 5 2/3, 4 runs. 4 2/3, 3 runs. It's the same pitcher every single time. I know what I'm getting. Jacob said it. The difference was last night he gave them up all early. Most of them up early. That's the difference you're playing here. Nick Martinez is not a starting pitcher right now for the Cincinnati Reds. He can't be. If you want to do the hybrid thing, I don't hate it. If he wants to be an opener, that's great. I welcome it. Start the game 3 innings and see what you can do. But as for trying to force this guy to go 6 innings, it's just not working. It's not working. And there's no real set answer right now until Rhett Lauder's ready to come up or whoever's up next. If Carson Spires has to come back, Carson Spires comes back.
Wade Miley in this system.
Wade Miley is in the system. There are options down there for the Cincinnati Reds to use. The issue right now is obviously when you pay a guy $21 million, what are you going to do? You're going to play him as many times as you possibly can. So it's the same thing with Jeimer Candelario. We can all sit here and say, I want Jeimer Candelario benched, but the fact of the matter is those are our 2 highest paid players. Both of them are struggling this season. They have to play. You can't bench guys who you pay X amount of dollars, that much money. You can't do it. I'm not out on Nick Martinez by any means. I'm not saying he's a bad pitcher. I'm not saying that he's not capable of starting games when we need him to. But as of right now, as of being an everyday starter, it's not working and it needs to be changed. He cannot start games any longer. He can do it when out of necessity once every month. But he's a middle reliever. That is what he is. He can give you 2 innings, 3 innings out of relief. He can come in high leverage for all I care. Be a 7th inning guy. I don't care. But there has to be a change because letting him continue to go out here and waste away. These starts remind me of Mike Minor. I don't know if you remember Mike Minor, but he'd come in and he'd eat innings and he'd fill that role, and that's what kind of feels like Nick Martinez is doing now. But I don't pay $21 million to eat innings. That's what I tell Ian Jabot to do when you're up by 7. That's what we're dealing with right now in Cincinnati. So I'm hoping at some point Carson Spires comes back up, or Wade Miley, or Rhett Lauder gets healthy. There needs to be a better option than Nick Martinez because Nick Martinez is not working. Not that win-loss record matters, but he's lost every single start pretty much. So I mean I can't keep knowingly being like, yeah, that's all right. We're gonna win the next one. It's the same start every game, the same exact start.
And he was great as a starter last year, but I think there's something to be said about when he did take over last year as a starter. Team's out of it. You know you're not going to the playoffs. You're going out there and throwing. You're playing loose. There's not a whole lot of expectations. If you get rocked, you're supposed to. You're a reliever. They got moved to the rotation because everyone's wiped out. And if you have success, then hey, that's you're a great talking point, and that's what he was. And by the way, I don't think that I don't know if he's going to be bad the rest of the way or average the rest of the way. He could bounce back. I know that Charlie Goldsmith, who you referenced earlier, he tweeted he quoted Terry Francona on Martinez saying that he's going to be back. He knows what he's doing, and the stuff is good. Martinez said had to have elevated some more pitches, and teams have capitalized on mistakes, but he feels good, and his pitches are moving. Look, I think that there's a lot more. I think a lot of the hitters are kind of catching up with him a bit. Pitching loose last year when your team's out of it, and I think he's pitching with expectations this year. It's a completely different animal. When you're pitching with expectations, I think it kind of changes you mentally a little bit, and I think maybe that's what we're seeing. I'm not panicking yet. I'd like to see him have a good outing to kind of rest everyone's uneasiness a little bit. But I do think it's starting to become, when you have 1, 2, 3 straight outings where we're questioning his ability to go deep into ball games and not just look like an overpaid innings eater, as Elliot was referring to, I do understand why people are getting concerned.
I don't think it's nobody's saying he's a bad pitcher. It's just not his role. He had a one-off year last year. He was a great pitcher when he needed to be, but you have to save him for that. He's not an everyday starter. He's not a starting rotation starter. He's just not. He can be an opener. I'm okay with him being an opener, but I think there's a different mindset when you're trying to get to 6 innings. 6 innings is usually the benchmark for a starting pitcher. I don't know what it is for Nick Martinez specifically in his mind, but usually when you're a starting pitcher, you're like, all right, let's try to go 6 today. Let's try to go 5 or 6. I don't think Martinez has 5. As Jacob said, when he gets through the lineup 3 times, you can't have him out there. They're slugging off him. I love him. I hope he's better. But again, you can't argue with the numbers. I mean, his numbers, they're as consistent as any player on this team. It's the same thing every time.
Yeah, last year, distantly his best season outside of his rookie year in 2014 with the Rangers. That's the only other time he went over 140 innings. That's the only other time he went over 125 innings.
Yeah.
I don't know what he did the 4 years he was in Japan, but he certainly wasn't the pitcher he was last year for the Reds at any other point in his major league career. Now, obviously you have to have a little bit of hope when you sign these guys. If you're Cincinnati, a 1-year qualifying offer. That's not something I'm going to, kill the Reds for doing. I think keeping Nick Martinez here is a winning move. And we clamor for winning moves all offseason. I'm not going to kill him because, it might not work out in the starting rotation. What I will kill them for as this season progresses is if we see time and time again that he's not good enough, and they use that $20 million as a reason to keep him in the starting rotation. If we have guys that are healthy and pitching well in AAA, if Carson Spires goes back to the bats and mows down, 2 starts, if Brett Lauder gets back and looks even close to what he was last year, Nick Martinez should have the quickest pull out of that rotation we've ever seen to go back to the bullpen. There's no excuse for that because you're paying him $20 million wherever he pitches.
Yep.
I don't know if they necessarily realize that, but if he's starting and he's bad, or if he's in the bullpen and he's good, it costs the same amount of money. So try to win games. That's the point where I'll get frustrated with the Reds. Would I like them to spend $20 million elsewhere? Yeah, but it's a very Reds way to think that it's one or the other. That's only because of who our owners are and the way we operate. They very well could have spent money on other guys, so I'm not going to kill them for bringing Nick Martinez back. I think that's a good move. I think it's something that teams that have an exciting young core, that's something they do. And is it going to work out? We don't know. There's a lot of games left, only 0-3 so far. So certainly could turn it around, but I really have a hard time believing that's going to be in the starting rotation. And the only reason he'd be there longer than another month or so is the money, or some kind of drastic turnaround.
Do you feel Terry Francona is the kind that he's stubborn in regards to wanting to, I'll show you? Like, do you get that vibe early? Because sometimes I get that vibe a little bit too. Like, he sticks with certain guys, which you kind of like as a player's manager type of guy, that he's going to stick with guys and all that. He's not going to throw his guys under the bus, in post games and media. But you almost get the vibe that he's going to continue force feeding a lot of these deficiencies with this team so that he can come out on top when it does work and say, see, it's a long season. You just got to, be patient, yada, yada. I feel like David Bell, and this isn't, David Bell's better or anything like that. I feel like David Bell, the big knock on him was he wasn't patient at all. He was constantly changing stuff up. And the one change I see already is Terry Francona is the opposite. He lets it ride. An example in basketball, I remember growing up watching, the big thing about Phil Jackson that he became very famous for was when his team would start to struggle and the other team would go on a run, he would let them play through it. He would not call timeouts. Where coaches would traditionally call timeouts in a run, Phil Jackson would never call that timeout. He would let his team play through it. And that was just a wrinkle of his. That was that was his philosophy. Kind of get that little bit of a vibe with Terry Francona. He's going to let his team play through the deficiencies to come out on the other side a bit, not constantly changing things.
Yeah, and I absolutely hate every second of it. I
Fair
think
enough.
It's one
All
of the most annoying things as a fan, at least the way that I watch baseball, that you don't have rationale for any move we make, basically. There's no data to back up who's batting. There's no data for platoon splits. They don't use any of that. It's just how Terry Francona rolls out of bed, hopes he didn't crack his dentures that morning, and see
come
how it
on!
goes. So,
what was that?
Well, when he cracked his dentures, he closed Ian Jabot. So, if he doesn't do that, maybe he'll make some good moves.
That was legit on opening
but
day.
He doesn't use any data, and he doesn't use any analytics. It's frustrating to watch if it doesn't work. If it does work, old school manager, 2 times World Series champion, let's go win a third here in Cincinnati. But when it's not working, if it doesn't work, it's very, very hard to watch baseball that way.
Not everything's 100%, but you have data, and baseball is the most data-driven, I would say, sport out of all the sports. When you have statistics and you have all the numbers in front of you, you have the answer to the test, and it's almost like, you know what? I studied hard, so I'm going to just roll with it. But here are the answers.
Here's the answers.
Here, I'm giving you the answers now. Oh my God! There's a bird.
There's a bird in the office.
What the hell?
A bird just flew into the window.
Yeah, that's what that was, wasn't it?
There was a bird.
That was a bird that just smashed right into our.
Oh my
office
God.
window.
Holy cow!
It was like Randy Johnson.
Well, that's something else.
Did they get up?
Well, that's something else, isn't it?
I thought it was Reed, to be honest.
I
Reed,
thought it was
Reed
gonna be
always
some
walks
kind of
by
prank.
and does the weird little drools on the window thing for whatever reason.
Yeah, nope, that was a bird.
That was a bird. The bird
Wow.
was Reed today.
Wow. That was startling.
Is it still here?
I mean, there's no way it goes far.
Can I go outside and see where that bird? If it comes at you, close the door.
It hit that window at 100 miles an hour.
Birds.
Let's see. We're going outside right now.
Yeah, he's currently investigating.
She has it in her hand.
She has the bird in her hand.
She has.
Got the bird in her hand.
We're gonna be like Tom Brenneman and go interview the
Holy
bird.
cow.
We're gonna go interview the
They're
bird.
interviewing
that
the
bird's
bird?
definitely not going to go that far.
We're gonna interview the bird like Tom. Bring the bird here.
Hang on.
Nah, we'll just shut the door. We're good.
Oh, I was gonna get the camera ready and everything.
Oh
They
my
put it in a bucket,
gosh.
but kudos to that woman out there. She had no fear. She just went down and picked it
She
up.
picked up the bird with her bare hands?
Yeah.
That's
Wow.
wild.
Yeah,
And
so it
that's how
hit that.
COVID starts. You
I mean,
know?
that hit that window so hard.
It was pretty hard. I'm not gonna lie.
Oh my god.
Go on in.
You can see
That was terrifying.
You can see the smudge
You can
where
see
the bird.
the guts.
Oh no!
my God, dude.
Tell her to come in.
I don't think I've ever been more scared in my
What
life.
a day.
Did you notice that? Like,
Oh, we all did.
It
I
slammed
was
into
just
the
looking at
window.
the camera.
no.
Oh my god.
Did it fall into the
Flying
ground?
right at me, dude.
Oh
And
my
it just did
God.
like a hard right in the window.
Which door did it come in?
I don't know.
It can't come through that one, and it can't.
Obviously, it's obviously someone had the. It also could come.
It
back.
could have come through
It
the.
came through the.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The bay.
the bay.
Through the bay.
It came
and
through the
then-
bay.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
That's crazy, man.
All right. Have a good show.
That's how. That's how clean those windows are, by the way. Like,
We have the bat in here. You should have gone swinging.
is it alive? Did she put it in the bucket?
They figured
They
it
figured
out.
it out.
I don't know what that means. That's what I told them. I'm like, she had no fear. She just been over and picked it up. In the
Wow.
So Nick Martinez.
To quote Trace, holy shit.
Yeah, that's
you go.
Wow.
That's insane.
That's something else.
Yeah.
Yeah,
off
Terry
the bench.
Francona stinks, and we need more analytics in this game.
What is happening? All right. we'll step away. Let's talk about Trevino when we come back. I want to make sure we give him his praise, but nonetheless. All right, Off the Bench presented by UDF. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back Off the Bench, presented by UDF. We apologize for the we let it distract us. I got distracted.
How are you not gonna get distracted when a bird fly? We're inside. The bird hit their inside window.
And if you know the setup of where the studio is, we are in the back, buried in the corner. It is very. For a bird to fly in and find its way all the way back here and hit this window of all windows. Pretty interesting, but either way. But yes, that woman out there, she literally, I watched it. She just went down, picked it up with her bare hand, no hesitancy whatsoever. She had to have grown up on a farm. That's my guess. That's my guess. Either way, but we welcome you back again. So really before that, we were just briefly talking about Terry Francona, that the one thing that I'm starting to notice about him is that he is willing to continue to manage through deficiencies of players without making adjustments. And some, like Jake, find that to be a bad thing. I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle because I need to see that they are going to play through it and come out different. At some point, the results will be different. But if we are talking about these same issues a month from now and he's continuously rolling them out there and not making any adjustments, then I'm going to start to have a little of my doubts. What I've always wanted was some kind of in-between manager of, I don't want the super analytical manager where – and because I think Reed brought this up on yesterday's show where he was kind of poking at the Reds fans saying that, we say, managers don't matter, and then we act like everything's going to be great because we have a great manager now. I don't think I've ever said that managers don't matter. What I've complained about baseball today is we've almost got to the point to where baseball has made it to where they don't matter because we feel like everyone operates with the same playbook and no one uses their gut to make decisions in games. Well, we're seeing a guy that's using his gut to make decisions. He's using just his baseball logic and just his feel of the game to make decisions. Let me ask you, can we say it's not working? Can we say it's not working?
We can say that it's much more frustrating when it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing. I don't want to speak for Jacob, but for me...
And I'm not mocking you or trying to debate you. I guess I'm just curious because I don't know.
I understand what you're saying.
Everything comes down to results, right?
Yep.
And David Bell, for what it was worth, followed analytics by the T. What did it get the Reds? Not a whole lot. Didn't really work.
Yep.
Terry Francona, right? He had Ian Jabot close on opening day. He pitched to Mike Yastrzemski, a righty-lefty, when we know that's not how you do it. Right. Didn't work. When those things don't work, it's highlighted to the 10th degree. If the Reds were 18-0 right now, nobody's in here complaining that
Correct.
he uses his brain, instead of analytics. But when you're 9-9 and you have, I would say, 3 or 4 wins on the table that didn't go your way because of decisions like that, then yeah, it's a little bit more frustrating. If the Reds finish this season 10 games above 500, am I going to sit here and complain about not using analytics? No, I don't care. But if the Reds finish 15 games under 500, if the Reds, have 74 wins on the year, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say, how many wins did we have that were taken off the board because we have the answers to the test and we decided not to use them?
Correct.
That's what it comes down to. It comes down to results. It's early in the season. It's way too early to tell if this is going to be the right way to manage the Reds. But I'll tell you this. I feel like the team has a different identity with Terry than it did with David Bell, and I don't know if that's a good thing. I don't know if that's the world's best thing. They still make the same mistakes, but it feels like they're somehow less aggressive on the base path. It doesn't seem like the defense has really been solved. The difference is, I would guess, is the pitching's been just lights out. Flat out lights out. Is that because, I don't know if Emilio Pagan thought he was going to be our closer this year, but guess what? He's 5 for 5. Is Terry gonna stop closing him because Alexis Diaz is healthy? No. I think David Bell might have. I think David Bell might have gone back to Alexis Diaz because he's the quote unquote set closer.
Yep.
Right? Terry Francona sees it like, you know what, I've started this guy 5 times. He's lights out. We're letting it roll. Tony Santillan, 7th, 8th inning. I'm letting it roll. Graham Ashcraft, 7th, letting it roll. And letting it roll goes so far, not to call into, not to, make it about gambling. I don't want to make this show about gambling, but it is funny because that is their celebration for hits and home runs. When they get a double, they roll the dice. When they hit home runs, they do that. And it's almost like when you're hot gambling. If you've ever been hot at a casino, you call it the let it ride play. And no matter what, it's even if it's the first hand of blackjack, you always know the first hand is the worst hand that you're going to be dealt probably. And even then, you were hot the last whole 5 hands, and you're like, you know what? We're going to go all in on the first hand just because I know that I'm hot right now. I'm letting it ride. It feels like that's how we operate. When something's hot, we let it ride no matter what. And I think through an 162-game season, that's not going to be sustainable. I could be wrong on that, but it feels to me like it's not a sustainable way to have success. Now, Terry Francona's a 2-time World Series champion. I know nothing.
Where?
Compared to what Terry's done.
Where is he 2-time World Series champion?
Not in Cincinnati. He would be with the Boston Red Sox.
Correct. Little bit different. I think letting it ride and trusting your players, if we're the LA Dodgers, if we're the New York Yankees with Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts and all the way down the lineup, superstars and all-stars, 162 games, throw them out there. They'll get through the slumps. They'll figure it out. We're not. We don't have 9 everyday players. We have a lineup that's built to succeed with platoons and analytics and speed on the base paths and running. And whether that's good or not, David Bell built this roster hand in hand with Nick Kroll to play his brand of baseball. And now we're not playing it. And this roster's not built to play Terry Francona's brand of baseball. It's just not. We have so many guys on this team that were acquired and brought up with the intention of playing them against platoons, with the intention of playing them in certain situations, and we're just ignoring it now. And I just refuse to believe that that's setting this team up for the best possible plan for success.
Yeah.
Unless they win today.
No, at all.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Everything's built based on results.
But the most important analytic out there, W. That's it. That's the one that trumps absolutely everything. You get W's, no matter how you do it, that's what matters. But you can't defend Francona. I can't defend Francona. The anti-analytics movement folks can't defend Francona if losses are piling up. And obviously 9-9 right now, a chance to win their 3rd straight series coming up later this afternoon. We'll see. Not that today's win or loss would dictate whether it's, but.
And it's not Terry Francona's fault. Nobody's in here saying that.
Oh, no, it is.
No, but I'm saying, like, if the Reds have a losing season this year, if they finish with 72 wins, I'm not going to sit here and blame Terry Francona the same way I didn't blame David Bell.
If they miss the playoffs by 2 or 3 games, that very well could be Terry Francona's fault.
If they miss the playoffs by 2 or 3 games, we're going to have a conversation. But as of right now, I don't see this team getting within that number.
Then that's fair.
And if they're as bad as they were last year by the time the season ends, I'm not going to sit here and blame Terry Francona because we got 4 guys in the lineup hitting below 100. 4 hitting a 125. Spencer Steer was 1 hit away yesterday from being sub 100 for the season. An everyday player. Like, that's what we're dealing with right now. So yes, is it frustrating to watch Terry Francona not use analytics? 100% when it doesn't go our way. But I'm not going to start questioning him as of right now until the Reds start really falling off the edge of the earth. They're 9-9. I'm not going to freak out now. If they go to 9-20 against with respect, the easiest the easiest schedule I've ever seen, then we're going to have different conversations. But as of right now, I'm not freaking out on Terry Francona the same way I didn't freak out on David Bell. But it is certainly frustrating with the decisions that he makes that aren't analytical at all, and it costs him.
I just like to understand when I watch my team why they do certain things, and it's very frustrating to watch the Reds and really have no idea why, no idea what goes into that other than just a gut feeling. And I think, with this team specifically, there's such a little room for error for this team to have any kind of success that when you send, Santiago Espinal out there in a situation where he shouldn't be hitting, or you have Gavin Lux, hitting second against right-handed pitching, it's just not setting up the Reds for success. And we know if they're going to make the playoffs, every single thing has to go right. So, for me to give applause to a manager that I feel like is costing them situations that they could have, base runners or extra wins or whatever else, it's frustrating. And, I think it goes back to David Bell here, and obviously that's what everything with Terry Francona goes back to now. We're going to compare them probably for his entire tenure because he's the guy that followed him. And it's hard because David Bell didn't have a lot of success and Terry Francona did. But when David Bell made a decision, whether you agreed with it or not, you knew why he made it. And that's the biggest thing that we're going to have to get over here.
And and to be fair to fans that like the old school way, that is why they didn't like David Bell. They liked the fact that Terry Francona can use his own head, his feel of the game to make decisions. They wanted David Bell at times to have that, right? But when you have I keep bringing up the answers to the test. When you have the answers to the test, you have to use them.
Right.
You have to use them. I'm telling you, and this is why I don't want to consistently say managers don't matter. Managers matter when you have the talent on the field, but at the end of the day, managers have more answers than they've ever had, and 90% of them use the exact same way of thinking that the rest of them do. You know what I mean? So I'm not gonna blame my manager yet. I'm not gonna blame him. It's frustrating to watch right now. We'll see as the season goes on. But I will say this: hitting TJ Friedel 1, having a no-name hitter hit 2, and then hit Elly 3 still doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
that's still ludicrous.
You've said it 5 times, and it's really the point that jumps out to me the whole time. You have the answers to the test. In any other industry, if you had a piece of paper in front of you that says this works 80% of the time, this works 10% of the time, we're going to go with the one that works 10% of the time, you'd be fired. So if you have that information for every at-bat and every pitcher, why don't you use it?
Yeah.
You have the ability to know what gives your team the best chance to succeed, and you're willingly costing your team the best chance to win, day in and day out, really.
But then when we see who do follow the numbers like that, like David Bell, we're not. So you're happy regardless of the results?
I think David Bell went over the expectation for this roster more often than he didn't. I do not think Terry Francona goes 20 wins over expectation in 2023. Okay. I don't think Terry Francona has the limited success David Bell had with the Reds roster, because I think for a team like the Cincinnati Reds, you have to rely on the analytics and getting matchups that benefit you, because you can't field a roster that is top to bottom great. I think for teams like us, you have to lean on analytics, and we'll see how that works out this year. And I certainly hope that we make the playoffs and we go on a long run.
Yeah.
Real quick, as we wrap up the Reds conversation again, the Reds 12:40 first pitch. They look to wrap up the series with the Mariners coming up and to win their 3rd straight. Jose Trevino has been I've been flying under the radar. I don't think he's gotten enough praise for what he's been doing at the plate, because I think he went like 2 for 9 in the month of March. He did not hit the ball well at all. I mean, when I say March, I mean they played 3 or 4 games, but he got off to such an expected start for what we thought he would be with the bat in his hand, because we knew that the Reds didn't bring him over for what he could do with the bat in his hand. We knew he was going to be a hell of a backup catcher, and we knew how good he was going to be defensively, and it was a great compliment to what you get from Tyler Stevenson when he's healthy. But while we're talking about all of the expectations for guys all up and down this lineup right now, we don't expect a lot from Trevino, but he's low-key been their most reliable hitter consistently, especially in the month of April. He's 8 for 25 at the plate in the month of April. He's scored 5 runs himself. He obviously has 3 doubles in the month of April, 5 RBIs. He's drawn a couple walks. Most importantly, he's only struck out twice. Like, he's not going at the plate and striking out and just giving outs away at this point. He's hitting .320 in the month of April, .298 on the season. Trevino, why is he not getting more love and praise? And how interesting would this be if this continues with Tyler Stevenson? They're talking about him getting some potential rehab starting next week on the road. Obviously, while the Reds are on the road, could potentially be getting Stevenson back within the next week or 2 if things go well. But if you get Tyler Stevenson back within the next week or 2, you need that pop in the lineup, no doubt about it. But if Trevino is still continuing to hit at this pace, that could be the next big tough decision that our guy Terry Francona has to make when we get there.
With the oblique injury, would hitting or defensive catching come first? Which one do you think's harder?
I don't know enough about that.
I would lean hitting because of the torque of the torso.
It just feels like catching, though, in that position for that long would surely ache. But I don't.
But are you DHing a guy with an oblique injury? That's what I mean.
Yeah, no, you're not. You're not. And I don't. And hand up, I'll apologize to Jose Trevino right now. I was very skeptical. At the end of each year, Kenner, I usually do an apology video where I apologize to the Reds that I've were harsher on than others. I was not a Jose Trevino believer. I am now. I think he's good. I think he contributes. I think he's important. One of the more important players on this team as of this very second. If you're not going to get production out of Jamir Candelario, Spencer Steers, CES, you don't have Tyler Stevenson, you don't have Austin Hayes, you're not going to get any production out of Jake Fraley either. You need a guy like Trevino to step up, and he stepped up. I mean, he's been awesome this year. He's hit the ball hard. He's been great defensively. You have to credit him at least a decent amount for how good this pitching staff has been. He's been a large part of how good they've been as well. So I think to when this season ends, when we look back at who was the most important player, obviously you're going to have Elly, you're going to have Hunter, you're going to have Matt McClain in the mix. But Trevino's going to be top 5. He's going to be a top 5 most important player when we look back at this season.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry,
no, you're fine.
bad.
I thought you were timing error.
Well, no, Elliot pauses sometimes. So
He
then
does.
sometimes I didn't know if you were done.
I have
My
weird pauses.
apologies.
I have weird pauses.
No, I mean,
It's not weird. I was just explaining why I thought you weren't done. My
I
bad.
saw a tweet yesterday that, I mean, originally I laughed and I looked at, the Reds stats and it wasn't a joke.
I didn't realize he was hitting that well.
Can the Reds afford to take Jose Trevino's bat out of the lineup when Tyler Stevenson gets back? That sounds like a joke from 3 weeks ago. He's distantly the best bat on this team right now. And I think the answer is no. That's why I asked the question when we started this off. Can Stevenson DH with an oblique injury? I guess we certainly are on the medical staff. We don't know that answer, but that has to be the question, right? I mean, if statistically, at least going into the season, Trevino was that much better defensively behind the plate than Tyler Stevenson was. Hasn't been quite as good this year as he was in years prior, leading up to, defensively at the catcher position, but he's been hitting so much better than he ever has. I think that's easily the answer. I mean, Candelario hasn't shown you anything at the plate. Spencer Steer, we just talked about how abysmal he's been fighting through this injury. DH Tyler Stevenson as soon as he's available and catch Jose Trevino. I wouldn't DH Jose Trevino. Maybe that might be a step too far, but certainly that would be the route I go. You have to get your best 9 bats in the lineup. There's no way around that. And right now, you can't argue that Jose Trevino's not in that group. He certainly is. Probably closer towards the top 1.
Top 3.
He's been unbelievable so far this year, and that's such a big boost for this Reds team so far. Is obviously what he's been able to do at the plate, not something we expected at all.
Well, the good thing is he's not in the lineup today, so there's that. I'm sure people will jump on that wins catching this afternoon for the Reds again. And I'm curious, too, as this run continues for him, will he be moved up in the order at some point? He's consistently been hitting at the bottom of the order, which I've never argued it because that's where I expected him to hit because, again, I never looked at him coming in as a Red to be a guy that would be one of the main cogs offensively. But he has been. And again, overreacting to bad and good. This is one I just wanted to focus on the good. It's been a pleasant surprise because if he can keep that up when Hayes and obviously Elly and McClain and everyone's kind of clicking on all cylinders in this lineup, because we said coming in, okay, if Elly does what he's supposed to do, McClain does what he's supposed to do, and Steer and the guys that we had expectations for, if they're doing what they're supposed to, that's one thing. But where you really elevate your team is when you start to get contributions from guys that you're not really expecting it from. Trevino really, he kind of slides into that slot for me. And if Elly can get consistently going a little bit more, and obviously it's been a nice addition seeing Hayes out there. I mean, getting hits in his first 2 games since returning to Cincinnati or debuting for the Cincinnati. And let's not forget Lux. Lux has started swinging a much better bat as of late as well. He had a huge game, obviously, in Game 1 that helped them come back to win whenever they were going up against their former pitcher, obviously in Luis Castillo. So there's some things in this lineup that are starting to improve. Obviously, getting guys back helps, but even guys like Lux, who's been here since opening day, he's starting to figure it out. Trevino's really starting to get rolling. Some of these off-season additions are paying off. Hayes being one of those, of course, in the early goings as well. But it is kind of crazy when you think about it. Brody Singer's been phenomenal. Huge pickup in the offseason. Obviously, we just got done talking about, Trevino. Lux is starting to pick it up. Hayes has been great 2 games in. It is nice seeing those offseason additions contribute, but they were supposed to come in and contribute and complement what's already on this roster. We need everyone kind of going at the same time. But that goes back to your point. Slim margin of error.
Right.
Everything has to be rolling for this team to be who they're supposed to be.
Right.
And you know what's funny, too? Like, we'll sit here and complain that the Reds didn't do enough. We can sit here and say that they spent $21 million on Martinez when they should have spent $21 million on a better bat, right? We can say that. But and by the way, it's true. Good teams spend money. That's a fact. The guys that the Reds have underperformed those 2023 dream expectations. that we probably shouldn't have had that high of expectations for anyway. They've underperformed. Elly De La Cruz, different ballpark. I'm talking about when you have Matt McClain, didn't play last season, has an IL stint early this year. He's not playing today because of the injury, taking his time. CES, been injured, hasn't been good. You go down the lineup. Jake Fraley was supposed to be a contributor for this team. Not existent. The guys that we have aren't good enough right now. Noelvi Marte was supposed to be a contributor. Does steroids. Loses his talent. And we don't have him. Well, he's back today, but you don't have him anymore. He's not the Noelvi Marte that we thought that he was going to be. Spencer Steer, a guy that we thought was going to have another 100 RBI season, 90 RBI season. He's not been that. The guys that you have to be good. I know it's the easiest thing to say in the world, but the fact of the matter is they've underperformed so drastically the past 2 years. Again, Elly De La Cruz excluded. That it's almost impossible to come and build a lineup filled with free agents from the outside. Because you would literally have to replace every spot, outside of shortstop. I'm hoping they're able to get better, but it's becoming more clear to me that this process of watching, CES, Steer, and all these guys develop into Major League Baseball players, it's going to take longer than what we thought. In 2023, we thought that this was going to be the start of something special. And it still could be. It still is. You have Hunter Green, you have Elly De La Cruz, you have a Hall of Fame manager. The vibes are still relatively high in this city. But the guys that you have, the homegrown prospects, when you play the prospect game, the homegrown prospects have to live up to the hype. They have to contribute. And they're not. They're not contributing. I want free agent bats too. I want the Reds to spend money. But if you don't have the core group of guys play up to their potential, play up to their standard, to play up to their expectation, you're not giving yourself a chance. And whether that's because of injuries, because they're young, regardless of the excuse, the fact of the matter is when they're playing games, they're not as good as we'd like them to be right now. Hopefully in the future that's not the case, but right now, and for the past year and a half, I'd say, it hasn't been the case. So yes, Gavin Lux and Austin Hayes, they're great additions. They're really good additions for the Dodgers, for the Yankees, for everybody else. But here, they have to be so much more than they're expected to be because the guys that we have aren't living up to those expectations. I'm hoping Hayes and Lux are able to continue this because they have to. We literally don't have another choice because Jameer's not, respectfully. Spencer Steer and CES are probably not. So then from that point on, who do you got? You have to have those guys play up to their expectations. Trevino, Lux, and Hayes, I know they're not the flashiest moves in the world, but you needed them. You needed them to make this team even a semblance of competitive.
Trevino's kept us afloat.
Yeah.
I mean, that move had a lot of fans scratching their head. And if we didn't have him, I know Austin Wynns has been, swinging the bat well, but certainly a different sample size than we would have seen without the Trevino addition, with Tyler Stevenson's injury. And he's obviously, we just talked about being one of the best bats on this team. This team, I mean, we can talk about, the ups and downs that we've seen through the first however many games so far. And yeah, it's frustrating, but they're 9-9 and, they're staying afloat and they're playing competitive baseball over, the grand scheme of things. Obviously there's, stretches in there that are more frustrating than others, but they're stacking wins and they have a chance to stack another series win today against the Mariners. And then you go to Baltimore and hope to do the same. So can this team, win in spite of a lot of the stuff we talked about? Absolutely. We've seen it so far because the pitching and the defense have been phenomenal. And maybe that's something we should give Terry Francona credit for. Obviously, We've seen some of the errors over the time here, but the defense overall for this team has improved greatly since last year. It seems much better. CES struggles with picking the ball and throws to first base, but outside of that, he might be one of the best defenders at first base, covering his ground in all of baseball. He's been great so far this year, and we know, what Elly's able to do outside of the routine plays. He's been great, and I'm, very, very excited for the trajectory this team's going in. I just think we're, moving it up a little bit. Thinking about this team as a playoff team might not be the right way to go.
All right, and that's crazy too because again, this team's going to lose because they didn't do enough in the offseason, but right now keeping our head above water because of the moves they made in the offseason, which, it's a long season, everyone.
I think the question is, what do you want, right? The Reds made all these moves, and they are keeping their head above water. They're 9-9, but I think these moves, give you the ability to turn this roster around into an 84-win team. Which what does that get us? A nice
just
credit
a bit
in the
outside.
gambling account for going over on the win total. That doesn't do anything. We have different places where I think everyone lies on this team. I see a lot of people after every win say season's back on, and then every loss it's season's over. I don't think there's definitions for what that means. I think a lot of people, when they say the season's back on, maybe they're just talking about an exciting June or July. And absolutely, they're right. This team's going to be in the mix. But I think a lot of people that are saying the season's over, they're saying through 18 games, they don't think this team's a playoff team.
Yeah.
And I think we've watched enough to have that as a rational take.
Yeah.
And I think over 162 games, I'd be pretty shocked if this team makes the playoffs. But that doesn't mean we can't have fun in between. That doesn't mean these young players can't take massive steps and fight for league-wide awards. We have a Cy Young candidate and an MVP candidate at two of the most positions on the team. That's going to be phenomenal to watch all year long. But I think, resetting expectations or honestly putting them where they should have been before the season is a big part for how Reds fans are going to be able to have fun throughout the rest of the year. We were plus 300 to make the playoffs before the year. We weren't a playoff team. If everyone was healthy, it would have been a surprise. So I think, being upset with the goalposts so far is it might be a little bit of revisionist history.
But saying that, chance to win the series against the Mariners.
That's right.
9-9. You win the series, you're above 500, and you head into a stretch. Again, the Reds' schedule coming up, I can't emphasize this enough. It's the easiest schedule you're ever going to have. I think all teams are below 500. Is that right? I don't know if the Orioles are. I should have known that information. Outside of the Orioles, you play 3 against the Orioles after this. You then have 3 on the road against the Marlins, who are woeful. You have 3 in Colorado against the Rockies. Tough place to play. The Rockies, the worst baseball team I've ever seen. If Kyle Farmer and no disrespect, I love Kyle Farmer, but if Kyle Farmer and Nick Martinez are key contributors for your lineup, you're in big trouble. Mm-hmm. You're in big trouble. So you have Marlins, Rockies, Cardinals who stink, and then you have the Nationals at home who stink. And then you play immediately after that the Braves, who, how many wins do they have?
5, but their win total is still 88.5.
I'm just
they got to
saying,
get them at some point.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of games here coming up that the Reds should take advantage of, regardless of how CES or Spencer Steer are playing. There's enough talent elsewhere to beat the Marlins and the Rockies. There's enough talent on this roster, and certainly there's enough talent on that rotation.
Do you think we see more Noelvi Marte this go around?
Yeah, I do.
Have to, right?
I do, because I think eventually that Spencer Steer wagon's going to fall off. I don't know when that's going to happen, but he can't play. He can't take at bats. Eventually, Spencer Steer's going to have to be utilized, and they're going to have to move Jamir and CES around. I think that's going to be the case. I don't know when it's going to happen, but you can't let a guy hit 100 all year long. It just can't happen. So I think you're going to see more Noelvi Marte. You're going to probably see him more at third base if I had to take a gander.
Who would you play at third over him right now?
Nobody.
Because I'm not playing Candelario over him every day.
Neither am I. Nobody.
So as long as he's up, I would have him in at third base basically every day. Santiago Espinal, maybe against some pitching matchups. Gavin Lux playing at second when McLean's out. We've seen him play a decent left field so far. I'm completely fine with him there. Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, the other thing, too, it's like, when you talk about, Christian Encarnacion-Strand when he's healthy, Marte, this season, compete, try your best to make the playoffs, win this division, but I'm going to give every at-bat possible and start possible to Marte. I'm going to give Christian Encarnacion-Strand every start and every at-bat possible, because you need to prove that there's something there. Because if not, we can't keep passing up on first baseman in free agency. We can't keep passing up on third base. I'm just throwing out random examples here, but they can't keep put placeholders down for these guys that are just now in the way versus us hoping that they can, pan out to be something. So, but that's the thing. It's like whack-a-mole. You knock out these problems over here, then these ones are going to pop up over there. The Reds will never have a complete lineup 1 through 9 where
Correct.
you feel confident in it. I think this rotation is probably about as close to a complete rotation as you could get in Cincinnati, considering this ownership. I think that's safe to say. I think that this bullpen, the rotation's been so good that I think that it has allowed the bullpen to be good, because Graham Ashcraft would be a starter if they weren't aggressive in trying to go.
Yeah.
If you don't give the qualifying offer to Nick Martinez, if you don't make the Jonathan India trade for Brady Singer, Graham Ashcraft's not in the bullpen, and that's where he's been phenomenal this year. He's in the rotation, probably not as phenomenal. So that's the thing, is there's things right now that traditionally this organization has not been very consistent or good at. And then once, we get these problems over here fixed, now what they were good at is going to come down, and it's just going to be they have to find a balance at the end of the day, and that's really what it comes down to. All right, we'll step away for a few. We'll wrap this up when we come back. Let's switch over to football. Let's talk Bengals. I know we haven't touched Bengals in a while. The NFL draft is a week from today. Jake, you and I think we talked the other day. You brought up a good point. The first round is the most exciting of the NFL draft, but it's the least exciting to you when it comes to the
distantly.
Bengals. And we'll talk about that when we come back. We'll get Casey's take on that as well. We'll be right back. We're off the bench next. All right, and we are back. NFL draft a week from today. You and I talked the other day, Jacob, that the first round, that's usually, that's the most hyped round. That's where everyone gets the most excited. But when it comes to the Bengals, it's kind of the most boring round. I feel like where the Bengals are going to improve the most at is going to be the remainder of the draft, not so much the first round, as wild as that sounds. The first round pick should be your most impactful one.
Yeah.
That may not be the case this season, correct?
No, I certainly don't think so, especially for where the Bengals are picking at. And this is kind of the conversation we had yesterday about the NFL draft and why this is viewed as, not the best draft. Because outside of, the top few players, which doesn't even seem to have a general consensus. Yeah. You have consensuses within each position, more or less, towards the top. But in terms of who the number one overall player in this class is, there doesn't seem to be an overall consensus. It's Abdul Carter, it's Travis Hunter, it's Armand Membu, it's Will Campbell. It really is all across the board, though they are all good players. I think there's less of a discrepancy between player 5 and player 10 than there is between player 50 and player 70. Yeah. Maybe that's a little bit of an exaggeration to prove the point here, but when you get into day 2 and day 3, you're picking between very similar players in the 3rd round and the 5th round of this year's draft. If you're willing to break some of the organizational molds, talking about the Bengals here, and you can get out of your comfort zone on age or height and weight measurements in some spots, you can hit on some really awesome production profiles later in this draft for guys that can contribute to this team right away. And that's what the Bengals are going to have to do. If you look over the last few years, how have they operated? They've operated with drafting a year in advance. Yeah. They drafted Myles Murphy to fill a hole a year in advance at edge rusher. They drafted Dax Hill to replace Jesse Bates a year in advance at free safety. Obviously, those haven't worked out for the Bengals, but the thought process was there in terms of, getting ahead of certain problems for this team. Bengals can't operate like that anymore. We know they have holes on defense. We know they have a hole at guard. We know they have a hole at running back too. They have 6 picks in this draft. I think they probably have more than 6 holes. So you have to hit on 4 to 5 of those 6 picks to be meaningful starters in week 1. Yeah. And I think this is a draft that really does help the Bengals with doing that. I'm going to be very interested to see which way they go with positions. I think something that does help the Bengals a lot this year. We know they don't need a quarterback. We know they don't need a wide receiver. And as long as, the last time I checked, Trey Hendrickson's still on this team. So I don't know if they need a number 1 edge rusher as of right now. And that's what we were talking about to kick off this show. Those are the sexy positions that this draft is lacking. So that helps the Bengals. Honestly, for all of us in Cincinnati, we should be the biggest Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, and Jalen Milroe fans in the entire world. Yeah. Because if those 4 players go before 17, you have a lot of offensive linemen and pass rushers falling on down. So that's the way Bengals fans should operate throughout this draft. Throw a party every time a wide receiver comes off the board, every time a quarterback comes off the board, because that just means better and better players at the positions we need are falling down. I think there's a lot of depth at interior offensive line, what the Bengals absolutely need a starter at. I think there's a lot of depth at edge rusher and interior defensive line, where the Bengals need starters at. They'd be fine taking any of those positions in round 1 and getting a really good player in round 2 or round 3. So there's a lot of different ways the Bengals can go.
Can you go wrong? Like, what's a pick that they could take with 17 where you're like, you know what, that stunk? That's garbage.
Casey and I talked through this today before the show. I think there's 3 players that we landed on that would be bad picks for the Bengals at 17. 2 that we've talked about pretty extensively on the show, Shamar Stewart and Michael Williams. Shamar Stewart from A&M, Michael Williams from Georgia. 2 guys that just didn't produce in college. They have great athletic profiles, and they played at marquee schools. They're big-time prospects, but Shamar Stewart had 4.5 sacks. Michael Williams right around there as well in his college career. Just not what you want to see. Reminds me too much of Myles Murphy. You're banking on too much production there, in my opinion. I'd like a guy that can come in and be an impact guy right now, someone that racked up the sacks in college. And the third one, going over to the offensive line, Josh Connerly from Oregon, a guy that, in my opinion at least, is more of a true tackle than anything else, and they would obviously try him at guard. I don't know if that would be the best way to go. I'm very, very fine with taking a tackle, moving him into guard in the first round, but I would lean more towards the Kelvin Banks of the world than the Josh Connerlys. I think there's a lot of really good defensive players that would be there that I would personally prefer over a Connerly, and then switching positions. That's a tough pill for me to swallow in the first round.
What about your guy Tyler Booker?
I love him. I absolutely love him. I think he is the top guard in this draft class, including a lot of those switches from offensive tackle to offensive guard. I think after Tyler Booker, it's about 6 to 8 offensive tackle converts before you get to the next guard. But I wouldn't take Tyler Booker in the first round. I know he has the film for it. I know he has the multi-year starter for it. But, Casey, what doesn't he have? Your favorite thing in the entire world.
A RAS score.
He doesn't have a very
profile.
good RAS score. One of the least athletic offensive linemen in this class, and that does scare me, pairing him with Orlando Brown, who, not very athletic, Amarius Mims, who kind of bucked that trend last year, but certainly not the way I think the Bengals are going and building this lineup. I do think if the Bengals take an offensive lineman early, they're going to be looking more big picture to replace Orlando Brown than anything else. You're taking someone that can play offensive guard for 2 years at a high level and then hopefully bump out to be your left tackle of the next 5 after Orlando Brown does retire or move on. So I think that the Bengals certainly wouldn't go wrong with Tyler Booker, but I would much prefer him at 49, which I don't think he's going to get there. But I would be a little bit upset if they took him at 17.
Who would be the most pleasantly surprised, fall that you would expect not to be a Bengal based on the current projections, but could be a Bengal based on, who knows, maybe they're taking wide receivers and quarterbacks more frequently than we would have thought, or something else goes wrong in the draft, teams are trading away, yada, yada, yada. Whatever that may be, who's a perceived top 12, top 15 guy that could fall to the Bengals if things went perfectly our way?
I mean, it's the guy that I've hung my hat on since we started this draft season. It's still James Pierce Jr. for me. He met with the Falcons at pick 15. He met with the 49ers at pick 11. Both teams obviously picking ahead of the Bengals that have a need at edge rusher. What he was able to do at Tennessee for 3 years at only 21 and a half years old, I think that's such a perfect match for the Bengals. The only reason he would be there at 17 is those character concerns. And I understand why Bengals fans would be hesitant to take a player with character concerns at 17 because we haven't historically done the best with character concern players. But if you go through your meeting with him, if you do feel confidence there, that's a college profile that I would just be over the moon adding to this team. Our friends over at Gridiron Grading, they came on and did a show with us at Chatterbox Bengals earlier last season. They have James Pierce Jr. as the 7th player on their board overall.
Oh my.
So that tells you a little bit about how great he is as a player, a really, really exciting pass rusher that should translate to the NFL with relative ease. That's my dream pick for the Bengals. I don't think he would be there. And if he is, maybe we should have more serious concerns about those character issues because I don't think his profile leads him outside of the top 15.
All right, off the bench. Presented by UDF, again, the draft a week from today. And again, the Pierce guy, you talked about him going back all the way to the middle of the season.
I've loved him.
He's
I've loved
been
him for a
bouncing
long time.
all up and down a little bit, too. What is going on out there?
I don't know.
I believe they're hitting maybe the bird with the hammer.
Building the casket
I
for the
don't-
bird.
I
It
don't-
won't die.
I don't fully understand what's going on out there, but it seems to be loud. Casey, who's your dream guys? Are you locked in with Jacob here or no?
So I'm going to cheat a little bit because I got 2, but it works because I like both Campbells a lot.
Yeah.
I like Will Campbell a lot, and I like Jihad Campbell a lot. I think if either of those guys fell to the Bengals at 17, that they should be running up to the podium to take either one of them. Jihad Campbell's a linebacker, which is not a position that's looked –
Makes the Jermaine Pratt decision easier.
Yeah, it makes the Jermaine Pratt decision a lot easier. It's not a position that gets a lot of love, especially in the first round. It's seen as the running back or the guard or the positions that you don't usually take in the first round. But Jihad Campbell, I mean, he would be able to give you a little juice in the pass rush department as well as being just an all-around great linebacker, and you pair that with Logan Wilson, I think you got the best duo in all football, I think. And then Will Campbell, his issue is just arm length, and if teams don't like that, I mean, there's a chance he could fall, but he's the best offensive lineman prospect in this draft. So
let me ask you this. We've had a pretty chalk sports year so far.
Yeah.
How chalk is this draft going to be? Are there going to be any surprises? Usually there's one draft night surprise. Michael Penix, I know, was a pretty big surprise last year. Do you think there's any of that this year?
I'm pretty confident in the first 5 picks of this draft.
Okay.
In where they're going. I don't think there's much question about the first 5 picks in this draft. So I'm going to say no. I do think that intrigue comes in at 6. I think that's the ceiling for Shedeur Sanders. I think he could go there to the Raiders. I know they made the move for Geno Smith. I know they extended him, but I don't think it would be a bad idea for the team that drafts Shedeur Sanders not to put him on the field in week 1. I think that would be setting him up for failure.
Yeah.
So going to Las Vegas would be perfect for him. I also think he could go 9 to the Saints. I also think both those teams could not take him, and that's where the free fall starts, and I think the intrigue would come in. Maybe we're talking about 21 to the Steelers as the next spot. I don't know for sure. Certainly opens the door for maybe a team like the Browns to trade back up into the first, take him a little later than the second overall pick. It's going to be interesting. I think that's the biggest storyline people are watching is where does Shedeur Sanders fall. Casey mentioned it there. Will Campbell, no doubt the best player in this class if you didn't have a ruler in your hands. But as soon as they found out his arms were a little bit shorter than they'd like, he's now no longer draftable. I always find that funny, right?
T-Rex arms.
Yeah, he starts a tackle for 3 years in the SEC. He's first-team All-SEC 3 times, first-team All-American twice, but his arms are too short now that we got a ruler around. So I hate that, but he could certainly fall. There's a lot of intrigue there. Maybe with pick 4, the Patriots going a different direction than Will Campbell, going with maybe Armand Membu, the tackle from Missouri. He had an unbelievable offseason, tested at a 99.9 RAS score, so I guess 9.99 out of 10, one of the most athletic offensive linemen of all time. So should be interesting to see what goes there. That'd be very cool to see him kind of fly up boards, and maybe Will Campbell does fall down to us. That would be a dream come true because that's an All-American or all-pro guard right there for sure.
For the Bengals specifically, what do you think the position groups that are going to be hit this year? You have 6 picks as of right now. You have 6 picks. I imagine you said yesterday a running back is going to be in play.
Certainly.
I like to think a tight end is going to be in play.
I think that's very dependent on how the board falls.
Okay.
I think.
So in your mind right now, what would 2 offensive linemen, 2 edge rushers? What are we looking at?
I would comfortably say 2 pass rushers. Ideally, I'm going with an interior and then an edge rusher.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna constrain the Bengals to that. If edge rushers fall and you can get 2 guys, one that's maybe a little bigger, and you think you can play him inside, I have no issue with that. I would say 2 pass rushers for sure. And I would love to get 2 linemen. I think it will only be 1.
Okay.
I think it's going to be 1 offensive lineman in this draft. And then I think a position a lot of Bengals fans are overlooking for 17, but most importantly throughout the rest of the draft is defensive back.
Yeah.
I think corner and safety are both absolutely on the board at 17 for the Bengals, with Nicky Manwari from South Carolina, Malachi Starks from Georgia, Will Johnson from Michigan, Jahdae Barron from Texas. These guys certainly fall right into that pick 17 range. I would not be shocked nor upset if the Bengals went with secondary early in this draft. I certainly think they will later. Guys like Xavier Watts, who played for Al Golden at Notre Dame at safety. Guys like Kevin Winston, who fell down the board pretty drastically because of an injury this year. A very, very good player. I think there's a lot of depth in the DB class here, and I think the Bengals will definitely take advantage of that as well.
Over under 3 quarterbacks that go in the first round.
Over.
Who's the kid from Louisville that everyone's
Tyler
talking about?
Shuck.
That name keeps getting. He's that every year. There's a name that no one talks about for the majority of the draft coverage, and then within the last 2-3 weeks, all of a sudden this guy shoots up the board. That name's been brought up a ton. Obviously, your guy from Alabama keeps getting praise. The Browns were asked about him today, and they were glowing and drooling over him. So there's who knows what's going to happen there. But yeah, so you say more than 3 quarterbacks taken in the first round?
I think so, because I firmly believe that 3 quarterbacks will go in the top 10. So I think there will be a
Who's the third that goes in the
somewhere.
10?
I think Jackson Dart goes 9 to the Saints because I believe the Raiders are going to take Shedeur.
So you don't think he drops out?
I don't, because I don't think I think if coaches and scouts made the decision, Shedeur Sanders would not be a first-round pick. I think either John Mara is going to make the decision for the Giants, the owner at 3, or Davis is going to make the decision for the Raiders, the owner at 6. I don't think either of these coaches want to draft Shedeur Sanders. I think they've watched the film. I think they've seen who he is as a prospect, and I don't think they're interested. But the name is great, and it'll get butts in seats. And for a team like the Giants and the Raiders that doesn't have a lot else to get excited about, the owner might force it.
Ashton Gene T, if he doesn't go in the top 10, how far does he drop?
Not far. Not far. I think, obviously, it's the 10th pick, but I think the Bears might be his floor. I think Ben Johnson would get very creative with him. If he falls out of that, 12th is his floor. There's no way that the Cowboys let him leave.
Yeah.
He grew up in Dallas. He's from the Texas area. There's no way that the Cowboys pass on him. If he goes before that, I think Dallas might take a Marion Hampton. I think they're pretty close to locked in at running back at 12.
If Shedeur drops to 12, here's my big prediction. The Cowboys take Shedeur Sanders if he drops to 12. That's my hot take.
What do you do with
if
Dak?
will. That'll be Jerry's problem later. Jerry wanted Sanders so bad to be their head coach. And Deion's, nope, interested in coaching his kid down the road. Well, that's how you get Deion.
Yeah?
You take Shedeur. They're in cap hell because of that contract to Dak. So it's one of the, well, it's not the contract to Dak. That'd be like saying the Bengals are in cap hell because they're in cap hell because they didn't manage the cap correctly.
Correct.
They didn't do a good job. It's easy to say, oh, they're in cap hell because of Dak. They're not. They're in cap hell because they didn't handle what was around Dak properly, and now it's backfired on them. It was what Cincinnati was on the verge of. That T. Higgins deal ended up being pretty
Dak
damn
has
friendly.
Dak's agents at Athletes First worked an unbelievable clause into that contract about the franchise tag. When he was up for his extension, they made the Cowboys franchise tag him before he signed the extension. So he had been franchise tagged twice in his career then. He immediately signed the extension, the tag went away. But now the next time he's tagged by any team, Cowboys or any of the other 31, it's that third tag we talked about with T. Higgins, where you're the average of every player in the league and it's fully guaranteed.
So the bar
So
is-
they just screwed the Cowboys with this, much less an ironclad no trade clause in there where Dak can only pick where he wants to go.
I don't want Travis Hunter. I don't want Travis Hunter at 2. I really don't.
I think Travis Hunter.
I would.
I think Travis Hunter's good, and I think depending on the role that a team would use him, because he said he's already come out and said he's not playing if they're not going to play him both ways. If he plays both ways in the NFL, you'd love him.
Andrew Barry said he's Shohei Ohtani.
Let me ask you this.
You'd love him.
I've asked, Shohei Ohtani, except when Shohei Ohtani gets hurt, he doesn't pitch for a year, but he still wins an MVP as one of the best hitters in baseball. Travis Hunter, you get hurt. Not only do you lose what you hope is a top wide receiver, you also lose what you hope is a top defensive back. I was on my show the other day, a Bengals fan had called in asking my thoughts about the Browns for whatever reason for the Travis Hunter pick. And I said, well, let me ask you this. I think we all know Jamar Chase, best wide receiver in football. Let's say we find out that, hey, this whole time the Bengals have been sitting on the number 1 cornerback or safety as well, and he's the top safety in football, and that Jamar Chase is going to play every down as wide receiver and safety. Would you feel good about that? Well, every time I've asked that to a Bengals fan, they're like, well, no, that increases the chance of him getting hurt. I'm like, exactly. And that's the thing in football, and if you're going to play both sides, if you're out with an injury, now the Browns are out 2 players, 2 starters technically, or 2 guys or 2 positions that you're getting a lot from one player. I want nothing to do with it. Also, where does he slot in as a wide receiver? Let's just look at him as a wide receiver at
You're
this
not going to
point.
like my answer.
How good is he as a wide receiver?
I think at worst he's the second best wide receiver and best corner in this class.
But
Worst.
But how does that stack up in the NFL?
Oh, I think Travis Hunter's a no doubt wide receiver 1 in the NFL. I think he'd instantly be better than Jerry Jeudy on your team. I think he'd be your number 1.
If you are right, then fine. I'm fine.
I think
with
he's
it.
your number 1 target and your number 2 corner out of the gate. No questions asked.
I just don't want both sides of the ball. I'm just not a.
And that's
Elliot's
a
right because
fair
he came
gripe.
out. He keeps hammering down, saying things like, I want to make that clear. He's even come out as far as to say that when he gets announced next Thursday, that Roger Goodell needs to announce him as wide receiver and defensive back, which I'm fine with. Whatever. You want a Heisman doing both, I'm fine with that. But that's how much he's leaning into. He expects to play both sides of the ball case.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a team managing Travis Hunter, honestly, if he wants to play both sides, I'm putting him in the roles that are going to give him the best opportunities to succeed right away. Like, I'm putting him in the slot as a receiver.
Yes.
I'm not putting him as my 1, but I'm putting him in a spot where you have a lot of distance. So you're not going to be, bumping. You're not going to be in a lot of press. And then as the corner side, that's a little harder to manage because you're expected to be in on every play, going to the ball. Corner 2 makes sense. And I think that's a good spot for him to be at anyways because, I mean, you already have a great
You'd also
one.
play him more full-time on defense, right? And then it's
Yeah,
more of a situational
yeah. You give him more
package
break.
guy.
You give him more breaks on offense where, you're at 2 receiver sets. You don't have to have him in there.
Yeah. He's not going to be a 1,000-snap guy. Like, it's not going to be what he did at Colorado.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't believe so. I mean, not on both sides of the ball, at least. I expect it to be like 500 snaps on offense, and then you probably would get 1,000 snaps on defense if you're playing all 18 weeks, maybe playoffs as well. So, yeah, I would expect it to be somewhere around there. But that's what I would do. I don't know what these other teams have in mind. I mean, maybe they do play them receiver 1 and corner 2 and just roll with it. But I would try to protect him as much as I can on one side of the ball.
If he is good, like, and this will be the last. This is how we'll end the show. If he is really good, and you get a wide receiver 1, you get a defensive player that's in potential for defensive player of the year every year. Does that contract change the NFL? Because that I feel like
$50 million deal probably.
I think that would be. I think you're getting a quarterback contract for.
I don't think
Travis
so.
Hunter. You don't think so?
No.
You don't think his value would eclipse a quarter? Like,
I don't care what his value is. You need an owner to sign the contract.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think there's ever going to be a player outside of the quarterback position that the 32 owners don't collude together and say we can't have this happen.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the dark side of this whole thing.
It just kind of is
Until
ironic. The one team that most likely is going to take
right.
him
You might be
doesn't
right.
give a damn what
You
the
might
other
be
owners
right.
in football say.
Until they
he
get
should want to go
They
to
might get the
Cleveland.
Haslams out of there before the 4 years are up if Travis Hunter's playing both ways. Just because the other 31 owners know what they'll do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's a good point. If anyone's going to do it, it'd be the Browns.
But the reason the other owners shouldn't worry is because I don't think there's a talent even similar to him out there. I know.
Funny enough,
I've heard
Jamar Chase would be doing this if it wasn't for COVID. He was supposed to play corner the year he returned to LSU after the national championship, wearing number 7, and obviously didn't play that year, sat out, so we never got to see it.
Realistically, would you want Jamar playing both sides of the ball if you knew he was as good a defensive back as he is a wide receiver?
If he's as good of a defensive back as your wide receiver, the answer is yes.
Until he gets hurt and then you're out.
Until he gets hurt, but what if he doesn't and you have an all-pro player at offense and defense?
If we're going to do like some revisionist history really quickly, him being corner 1 and receiver 1, at just any point in his career at this level, I think we would have won a championship. No doubt in my mind.
If we had a corner as good as Jamar Chase is at wide receiver, we probably do win the championship. Eli Apple was guarding Cooper Kupp in the end zone. We would have had Jamar Chase.
Just think about all the times that Cam Taylor-Britt got burnt last season. That's not Cam Taylor-Britt anymore at corner 1. It's Jamar Chase locking down whoever he's going up. Yeah, like
Alex Walls with a good point in the chat here. What if Jamar Chase was as good of a left tackle as he was wide receiver? That'd be pretty cool.
That would be pretty cool.
Well, there you have it. And this is how I could always tell. As a Bengals fan, who do you want the Browns to pick? Now, it sounds like a dumb question, but it makes sense. You want them to pick somebody that you're going to fear the least, I would assume. And
I want you to take Shador so bad.
Yeah, I want Shador very
That's
bad.
exactly my point. But Shador, I want them to take, obviously, pass rusher from Penn State, which we'll talk about
That is
tomorrow.
the only player that the Browns could take it to. Realistically, certainly there's other guys I like a lot in this draft. That is the only player the Browns would take it to that I would lose sleep over, is Abdul Carter.
Well, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We're going to have Jay Paterno, who is the son of Joe Paterno. He was on Joe Pa's coaching staff for many, many years. Still works very closely with Penn State, but obviously covers college football as a whole. So we're going to talk about the draft with him tomorrow. We're going to talk about Abdul Carter. We're going to talk about the tight end that you really like.
Tyler Warren.
That could potentially, is he there at 17?
If he's there at 17, there are 16 very dumb GMs.
There you go. He could be the Dalton Connect
I'll,
of the NFL draft. So
I'll take
there
that
you go.
payoff if Tyler Warren's there. Boy, oh boy, let's score 50. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
But we'll talk with Jay Paterno on tomorrow's show, NFL Draft. Talk about the Bengals. We'll talk about college football. He's going to weigh in on the whole issue that went on with Nico and Tennessee and just how common is that, or how common will it be moving forward. We'll talk about that on tomorrow's show. But last thing on the way out, Reds score prediction. Elliot?
1-0.
Which team?
Which
Don't
team?
say.
Yeah.
Don't say.
1-0.
I love
I
that.
feel it in my soul.
I'll go 1-0 the other way.
Oh. How about hedging your
Casey?
bet?
About Reds 3-2.
I like that.
6-3 Reds.
Okay.
6-3 Reds. I don't know where those runs are coming from. I did see that lineup. Trevino's not even in the lineup.
No, he's not.
Wow, here we are mid-April, and I just said I'm not confident in the Reds scoring runs today because Trevino's not in the lineup.
Yeah.
What is happening? We're done.
Torpedoes.
Yeah. All right, we're done. Thanks, everybody. Until tomorrow, this has been Off the Bench.